And I've done both urine and not urine. I mean, sometimes I don't have any urine in me. If I'm doing 50, 60 scrapes or something like that,
that's a lot of urine.
That's a
lot of urine. Even for Josh Bowmar, that's a lot of urine.
It's a lot. And I try to put 4 or 5 ounces, shut the valve off.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX9.
Yeah, blacked
carbon,
out as always.
Blacked out.
Yeah.
Big surprise for
80
everyone.
pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. And we just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt, like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt.
And we're back.
Ew.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 276, as Nick keeps us in line from South Carolina.
Yeah, man. Haven't heard from Nick in a little while.
Nick.
Are you there, Nick?
Yeah, I'm sure he's fine.
Sure
we were texting him yesterday. We were texting him yesterday.
That's right.
Getting ready for Lakoski's podcast.
It's been busy. It's been a hectic couple of since this past weekend here.
Yeah, well, especially like as we're doing doubles for him and clips and other things. Like, yeah, Nick's in it at this time. You might say he's in it now.
We're in it now. He's also in it now. You know what I've noticed is from week to week, that picture is like slowly but surely turning adjacent.
What?
Do you see that? It's not straight anymore.
Oh, I don't know from my angle.
You can't tell her? Oh, dude, it's not straight at all.
Oh, wow. No.
Yeah, it was straight when I hung it, for sure. I think it's maybe just not on the middle rung. You know how they do that?
Yeah.
We'll fix that at some point here, maybe.
Okay. Most people can't see it.
So, hey, before we get going here, wherever you guys are listening to us from, we appreciate you tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Those are the 3 main platforms that we drop these episodes on, and we do that every Tuesday and Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. If you've written us on Instagram DM or the website, those are the 2 we check the most frequently. And I always have to make a comment about how well we're doing at those responses there.
Pretty good.
Okay.
There was a lapse there.
Pretty good.
Post elk hunt that was hard. It was a lot of like thanks.
I've got some emails pinned in there too that are just I make the intention to get back, and they will be gotten back to at some point. They're flagged. So we have some merch on the website, some HUNTR merch, some cool stuff, some new stuff. You can also use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on any of our partners' website, including our guest today, Josh Bowmar of Beast Broadheads. I'll give us a disclaimer there. You can use a discount on that website too for some heads and whatever else you guys want. And other than that, here we go. We're pretty real time now. There's been a few comments that are like, hey, like talking about the elk, like talking about Lakoski and elk, but like, it's whitetail season now. We're real time as it can get.
Yeah.
Man.
So we're filming this on Thursday the 2nd. This is airing on Tuesday. So pretty real time for us at this point.
Yep.
And the beautiful thing is we're in October now.
And we are.
Here we go.
We're in it now.
We're in it now. It is whitetail season.
A lot of people have caught on to that. You see that? That's like a main comment you get now.
Yeah.
We're in it now.
Yeah, I love that. So, I think that if we're looking at kind of October, and as crazy as it seems, we talk about this probably every year for the last 5 years of doing this podcast. It's like, just October, just started, take a deep breath, plan it out. But then all of a sudden, it's like, we were just talking about it next week. We're like, we're staring at a cold front, like a substantial one. And it's like,
nice one.
If you've got a deer, like that's a good one to make a move on, especially when we're talking about scrapes and things like that, because it has been it's hot. It's been 80 some degrees here for the last few days, and looking into the immediate future before that cold front, it's going to go from like 80 to 65 or something like that. So it's a substantial one for October, the first major cold front of October. So, pretty quickly, it's like, boy, you better have a plan and start making moves.
Have you seen that finance guy on Instagram, or he's probably on TikTok too, where he's like, it's pretty substantial.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Pretty substantial call, right?
You could say it's pretty substantial. Yeah. a pretty important part here. So, we've got our first cold front looking at us within the week. And so,
a lot of east winds too.
Yeah.
I've noticed every day I've hunted so far has been an east wind.
Yeah, pretty wild.
A little bit of north. We get a little bit of north.
I think a lot of that's from the tropical stuff that's happening off the coast, pushing back.
Is that right?
Yep, think so.
Interesting.
For sure. Not a meteorologist, but stayed at a Holiday Inn Express type of thing.
Huh?
You ever heard of those?
No.
What?
What's the connection?
It's like you're not an expert, but you stayed at the Holiday Inn Express, and so that makes
it's a nice place to stay.
No, it just makes you you're smart for staying there.
Oh,
that's
okay.
their whole
That's
commercial.
their shtick. I see.
That's their shtick. Yeah.
I see. I wasn't familiar with that one.
Interesting. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Well, yeah, a lot of north and east winds, and this coming cold front, it looks like it's going to be similar. It's south this week during the 80-degree temps, and then Tuesday is that rain, I think, and then Wednesday, Thursday looks good, and east to northeast is what I have, anyways.
Yeah,
in Ohio,
I think we're Wednesday in Pennsylvania for rain. Thursday's the day that it's going to push out.
Am I misremembering? Maybe it's Tuesday night into Wednesday. Similar.
Yeah,
similar, something like that. Wednesday does look good. But generally, it's that Thursday is probably where it's at.
And again, just because,
and of course, we'll be sitting here recording podcasts. This is what we're trying to figure out beforehand if we're going to
move podcasts,
reschedule anything or what we're going to do there.
But and we'll talk about it with our guest today, obviously, Josh. But that also for a while there, we just got this pretty big week of rain.
Epic.
But then all of a sudden you looked at the schedule or the forecast, and you're like, it's dry again and hot again. And then this kind of popped up out of nowhere. Now it's talking, I think it's 0.3 2 days in a row or something like that, and cooler temperatures, which will really favor all those cool season plantings. So, those are the things that timely rains, the right temperatures, continue to get you through. My food plots are they're starting to seem like they have life again, which is critical.
Dude, I couldn't be happier. Mine honestly have exploded with that week of rain. I can't believe how fast that rye is growing.
Yeah.
It's 4 inches tall.
Wow. That's crazy.
In a week. I planted it last Sunday.
And you pretty much dissed it under.
I did. A light disc. Yeah, but I covered it, and so I mean, whatever.
Which,
but everything else germinated too.
Seed.
That buckwheat and and all that radishes germinated also. So I mean, it's freaking looking good. I'm gonna run out. A frost is gonna cut me off here at some point. I'm not expecting bulbs or anything like that. But I mean, we'll get something at least for.
Well, and that rye will keep. Anytime we get those warm trends, that rye will pick back up. So
honestly, we're in the same situation in Illinois too. We haven't been
or worse situation in Illinois.
We haven't been out to sea, but we didn't get that week of rain, and so it's there was no late planting. We're still waiting for that. So it's going to be basically winter wheat at this point.
Yeah, I mean we're way behind. I think we got 3 or 4 inches out here. They got a half.
Yeah, but we have beans.
Yep,
and plenty of them, so we'll have food.
Yeah, and again, that farm is very much corridor hunting and rut hunting too.
New buck in there yesterday.
I saw
it's gonna start happening.
Splits.
A little bit more movement there too. Even young deer on some of those scrapes. It's gonna start picking up here.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, if you think back, the first year we owned that farm, I guess if you want to call it our best year, even though we were just killing big mature bucks, that was our best year, and we didn't really have food or anything. We just hunted funnels.
Yeah,
and we killed 3 of them.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
So, so we'll see how it goes. You can't control the weather, so it is what it is. But yeah, definitely having a little bit of life here. And, it seems like, knock on wood, I haven't heard as much EHD conversations in Ohio here. I think it's because in a lot of cases they've been hit so hard, they're dead. But I know even, somebody wrote us. I apologize. I'd give them a shout, but I don't remember. But they had done the neem oil stuff, and they hadn't found any more dead. And they had a 2-year-old show up, look pretty ragged, but I would assume got it and survived, which is a good sign. You hate seeing a deer in bad condition like that, but it's a good sign from an immunity standpoint and starting to build that up in that area because you need it. So yeah, I don't know what the forecast will look like long term here, but we're within a couple weeks probably of our first frost that will really set that midge back. I told
you this morning was it wanted to.
There were low 40s in several areas.
I stepped out on the deck and she looked a little frosty.
Yeah, and you need
a little frost on the pumpkin, as they
36, 37-ish, and that will get you a frost probably.
Yeah.
So, so we're getting there, and hopefully some of those areas are cranking up.
I love that saying for some reason.
Frost on a pumpkin.
Yeah. Frost on a pumpkin.
It's that time of year, frost on a pumpkin. So,
all right.
Anyways, let's get Josh, and he's probably already got 15 things to say. So
we'll roll.
Josh Bowmar, everyone.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
welcome.
I guess we missed our last opportunity. We tried to connect. Was it earlier in September? Or was when we were trying to do? Was it early September? Yeah.
We missed so we missed the early season patterning conversation.
Game over.
Yeah, I wanted to hop on and just kind of share some strategies on finding big deer, because so many guys just don't even understand that process of just finding a giant buck. And so that's the biggest and hardest part for most people, is finding the big deer, because you can't kill something you can't find.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I was hoping to do it, but hey, strategies change now. And now we can chat all deer hunting stuff. It's going to be fun. We can really talk about anything you want. This will be a good one.
I mean, dude, do you think it's over? Is that part of your patterning process? It's done, it's over, it's complete, because there's going to be bucks that continue to show up here. So there still is a finding mindset, but it's obviously changed, from September, whenever we were talking originally.
Yeah, honestly, there's multiple phases of finding deer. It is very difficult to find a very big mature buck in velvet. We all see the giant 200 inches in velvet, and I rarely actually get mine in velvet. I would say probably 50% of mine I actually get in velvet. I don't know what it is about these old deer. I feel like they go in the middle of a cornfield and just live there in the summer, or they're tucked away wherever there's no bugs and ticks. It's just, I don't know, because I cannot find them. Even if I've got sections and tracks where I'm talking to the neighbors, we're all communicating, no one has this deer, and then all of a sudden, boop, he just shows up in the middle of October. And I find that is the first stage being hard, but if you can find them, it's really helpful. But then also the other side of it is this time of year. This time of year is when all the crops are being harvested, which, because there was so much rainfall in the summer, a lot of these plants matured early. So farmers are picking their stuff early, which I think is a really great opportunity. I think a lot of bucks are going to be moving into their fall ranges sooner than they were last year. So I think a lot of people are going to be pretty excited about this, and especially if you've got crop on your corn on your farm. A lot of the deer are transitioning from the beans, they're turned, or even being harvested and moving straight into where the corn is.
Yep. That makes sense. And I would assume, Josh, I mean, you mentioned not being able to see a lot of those bigger deer in velvet because they're living in the middle of big crop fields or whatever. I mean, in reality, you'd rather see them in October during hunting season than just see them in velvet and then lose them.
Yeah, a lot of guys have that, the ones that do actually find the big ones, and then they leave when they shed the velvet. And that part sucks. I've been there too. You do everything you can to create the most optimum habitat for the deer, and they still leave. And it's all a preference to the deer, and so they just have places they like, or a girl that they like. Who knows why they leave? But at the end of the day, it's this time of year is so special. And there's a lot of unique things that happened this year that I noticed that's going to change this whole first week, and really the first 2 weeks. Because for us, a lot of the acorns start falling about the second week of October.
Okay.
October 7th through the 15th, all the acorns start falling, and you get a big windstorm, and then all of a sudden all your deer are gone, and they're all just gorging themselves on acorns.
Yep.
All of our acorns dropped 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this first 2 weeks could actually be really, really good for us, because if we've still been getting rain, so the acorns have a high likelihood of starting to, rot, or whatever they're going to do, become unpalatable for the deer, and they're going to start transitioning earlier into the green. So I don't think there's going to be that October lull like there has been. I think a lot of deer are going to get killed this first 2 weeks of October across the nation, to be honest.
So do you think
if they got rain?
So do you think that a lot of those spots then experience that, we call it lull? It's not like they're not doing things; they're just really gorging on those acorns and stuff. Did that earlier this year? So maybe even guys going into the season are like, whoa, what the heck? I've lost these deer. I don't know what's happening. Yeah. And they may actually show up, especially because we just talked about it this morning. You guys have it a little earlier. There's a cold front coming next week, probably when this is dropping. There's a cold front coming in. And so that could be a peak time to actually get out and get on one if there's one in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I had a whole bunch of deer disappear in September, and I was freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my God, is EHD hitting?" I'm like, "Where are these
Yeah.
deer?" I'm like freaking out. So in
You
the
freaking
summer,
out?
when to find deer, we can feed in Iowa. So
Yep.
I run lots and lots of feed in Iowa, just trying to find them and hone in on where these deer's patterns are. So I went out. I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't find these deer. Where'd they go?" They were very consistent, and then now they're gone. So I went into the timber trying to figure out what to do, and I do this during the summer because the deer have higher estrogen, than typical. Their cortisol levels are lower, so they're not as like switched on to danger. So you can get away with a lot in the summer,
Yeah.
to where you can blow a deer out and he'll come right back. They're just not wired for survival the same in summer as they are in the fall. And
is that why that is, Josh?
Oh, dude, we can get into.
I didn't mean to halt the
biology of
conversation
deer,
there, but
sure.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. So there's so much that we could dive into: the hypothalamus of the deer, the limbic system. I mean, we could dive into all of this with how it's tuned into the barometric pressure, the internal barometers that they have, and kind of how all that plays into strategy. We can dive into that for sure. That sounds fun. But it might be
but just
later,
at face value, you're saying there is a chemical difference as it relates to like tolerance of pressure in the fall than there is in the summer.
Oh, for sure. I
Interesting.
mean, absolutely. Well, think about a high testosterone fueled, person versus a beta soy boy.
Yeah.
I mean, that person's way more likely to walk into danger. They're not. A dude's full of testosterone. I mean, he comes into a room, he is hyper aware of all of his surroundings,
Yeah.
As a masculine man, and he's going to sense out all the danger. He's going to be hyper tuned in. Now you take a dude that's estrogen levels are through the roof. They just kind of wander on in, more like a woman. They're not really wired to be hyper diligent on searching for danger.
Always sits with his back to the door at the restaurant, and he's got to have eyes on the door, and he's sitting with his back to the door. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, exactly. And so if you take that same man and then you lower his testosterone levels, he's not going to have that same type of behavior. And so the deer are no different. Now, I'm not a deer biologist, of course, but I do have a background in biology in humans, which translates across to many mammals. And so my speculation with my experience with the deer are that, right? So I can blow them out of their, area when I go in to do whatever, and they come right back. And I do that in the fall. They leave. I mean, sometimes a long time. And so from my personal experience, I am speculating that to be true. Now, a deer biologist may confirm that or say that's hocus pocus. I don't know, but it's pretty prevalent that I think it's true.
And honestly, I think it could be even exacerbated a little bit in the fact that they go from 0 to 60 so fast. Like if you think about, unless you're taking steroids or whatever, from a human standpoint, like if you're trying to build your testosterone, like there's a time, there's an effort, there's supplements, there's everything that you're doing to do that. Sure. This is from a natural level, like based on photo period primarily, is going from low testosterone to like even right now. What people don't understand is here we are sitting on October 2nd, like the testosterone is going up like a rocket ship as we sit here in the deer, right? It doesn't just, it doesn't go from nothing to peak rut like, overnight, right? It is a exponential growth upwards. So that happening, I have to assume that there is probably even a faster chemical change in the brain, during those, call it 8 weeks, really.
Yeah. Oh, you're spot on with that. And that most people don't understand that side of it because they just think a deer is a deer. And then you take in age factor, like a deer that's 4 years old is not going to have nearly the testosterone levels of a 5, 6, or 7-year-old deer. It's no different than a human. You can't expect an adolescent to have, a high level, full grown man testosterone levels. And so the behavior differences between, 4-year-olds and less versus 5-year-olds and older, I mean, it is drastically different, especially on their survival techniques and just all of what goes into each one of those aspects of the deer, which we can dive into because I've documented deer from the ages of 2 all the way to 7 now. I've done this enough with tons of cameras, and I can see the behavioral changes, which is really interesting to me because a deer specifically that maybe you guys have seen the episode or some of the viewers have, the hunt for Big Mac, that giant 177-inch deer Sarah killed. That deer was a complete dum-dum his entire life. I mean, that deer would, no matter where I sat on the farm, he'd just come in front of me until he turned 7. When that deer turned 7, that thing became one of the hardest deer we've ever hunted. No difference change in any of the habitat, any of the pressure, nothing. It was all the same. And that deer just blew into this nomadic freak. And it was extremely difficult to kill, where Sarah didn't even kill it till like late November. And she hunted so hard. And I say she, really we. I mean, I was there with her. We were obviously doing all this, and we hunted that deer forever. And we finally did get him killed. But man, it is one of those situations where being able to understand a deer's behavior that's over 5, which is really those big giant deer, is a huge skill set that a hunter can learn, especially guys that aren't used to killing 5 or 6 year old deer. If they only kill 3 or 4 year old deer, which is a lot of guys, and that's totally fine, it is just very different when you're chasing 5 year olds. But I want to put a pin back into the conversation where I had a bunch of deer disappeared in September. So and then we could dive into all this stuff. I just, the way my brain works, if I leave something, it's gonna like fester. You know,
that's fine, man.
Patting me on the forehead. Okay, so the deer disappeared, and when I went into the timber to find new places to put feed or whatever I can set up to find those deer, that's whenever I discovered all the acorns, and the deer sign in there was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just going absolutely bonkers in there, and I was like, okay, this is where they are. And so I found that out, and then of course I reached out to some friends, and they said they had deer disappear too. So it gave me reassurance that there was no EHD and all of that, and we're in good shape. And so anyway, I wanted to put a pin in that. And,
no,
so now I'm excited.
That's a huge thing. I mean, so my farm in Southeast Ohio, obviously I'm in like the epicenter of this EHD outbreak that they've got going on down there. And you know, knock on wood, my farm's been pretty good, right? I'm seeing the deer that I need. I've got a couple 5-year-olds that, you know, maybe they just moved off. Maybe they're gorging on acorns because they're everywhere. But like, I haven't seen the death where I'm at, but there's a lot of people in that situation that are in these epicenters, and they're like, man, all these deer disappeared. Like, did they die from EHD? You know, and it just is because the acorn crop was moved up, you know, and so it just coincides with the same time that you would expect EHD deer to go disappearing and dying as well. So I would say even right now, there's a lot of hunters in these areas that have EHD that are in extreme stress periods because they're assuming they died from EHD, but they very well could pop back up in the next 2 weeks as these acorns start to fade off a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if we were to start diving into like strategy on finding deer this time of year, I mean, the reality of it is, whether you have 1 farm or 10 farms or 5 acres or 100 acres, you got to treat every single one the same. And at the end of the day, cameras obviously make a huge difference, but you still have to have the woodsmanship skills of putting the camera where the deer is.
Yep.
You can't just say, oh, cameras are the secret. So you really have to understand the patterns of these mature deer to find them. And I see this all the time because I've sold primo farms to guys that have produced multiple 200s. They buy the farm in its peak, and then they can't kill another deer to save them their lives on this. And it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, it drives me crazy because I tell them exactly how to do it, do all this stuff, and they just don't do it. And it blows me away. And it does take a lot of effort. Most people just don't realize, in the skill set of finding those deer and putting the cameras in the right place so you get the data is very difficult.
I know I keep picking up on your rabbit tails, Josh, but why do you think that is? Like, these are deer, these are farms that you've had a lot of success on. You turn them over. What do you think? Where do guys take a left turn where they should have taken a right? What are they doing?
So first of all, they don't feed them January 11th. So in Iowa, you can't feed during deer season. January 11th, every one of my farms, we are freaking gun-ho getting a bunch of alfalfa out because most people put corn out like late season. It's terrible for the deer. It is not. So they need a variety in their gut microbiome. And so they need a variety in their food sources in order to create a strong gut microbiome. So I misspoke there. In order to get a strong gut microbiome, they have to have a variety in their food source. And as the winter comes, everything starts getting dwindled down to what's available.
Yeah.
And so they like corn, obviously, in the winter because it's high in carbs and energy. But so is a candy bar. That doesn't mean that's what you should be eating in order to maintain your health.
Right.
And so you have to feed green sources as much as you can in the off season in the state that it's legal, because then that will strengthen their gut microbiome, which in turn strengthens their immune system. Most people don't realize this, but their immune system is based on their gut. So 70% of your guys' immune system, my immune system, everybody's immune system is in their gut. And so that sets the deer up for maximum success going into the season on antler growth. And so the most prime time for bucks to grow their antlers is not, yes, growing their antlers is in the summer, sure, but setting them up for success starts in the winter through about April. Because once April comes, the browse comes, there's plenty of diversity in their food that they can get. But that stressful time, it's all stacked against them. They're coming off the rut, and now with doe populations being so high, there's a second rut, sometimes a third rut, and from the fawns coming in. So these bucks are just getting ran down. They don't usually in the winter have the resources to be able to have a variety in food sources. If you plant enough food plots, all of that, which is cool, that can help. But then water availability is also not there. And so they're chronically dehydrated, especially in the winter when they're just eating snow. And so you add all that in, it just compromises them. And then they do recover and survive. But if you want a deer to grow 200 inches of antler, it needs to be able to have a thriving environment with low stress is a big one, obviously, and then a variety of food sources.
Is that alfalfa mainly in the form of like alfalfa bales, or do you buy it like in nuggets or something like that, or how do you do that?
Well, the compressed bales are bad because a deer doesn't have fingers to be able to pull it apart. They can paw at it, and it's aggravating. So what I do is I get big round bales. I get them from wherever I can or grow the alfalfa myself and bale it. And then I actually get it nice and fluffy. And then I also will put feed in there as well, and the mineral, whatever they needed for them to be able to maximize their health. I'll put it all in there, but then they're feeding through it. And then the mineral actually absorbs into the stems of the alfalfa, because normally they'll just eat the alfalfa and then the stems aren't really edible to them. But it's no different than you put like mineral on a log and then they eat the log. Same concept with the stems in the alfalfa is then the stems, as morning dew, the frost, freezes and thaws, the stems will absorb it, then they eat that as well. And so then you're giving them fiber, you're doing everything to help them. So I look at growing these big deer, and to answer your question about what these people do differently, they're just not willing to do all of those things in the beginning stages. And then everyone gets excited in June. And so then they start doing all the work because that they can see the antlers. And by that point, it's too late to really make a huge difference.
Well, that's interesting. So let me finish this first part. So you are using alfalfa bales and just rolling them out like you would for cattle, essentially, just rolling the bale out and then putting everything on it.
And fluffing it up. I get it nice and easy for the deer to be able to get through it all. And then, I put corn. And then the big thing for when you're dealing with big deer is in the winter when it's frozen, I use cracked corn. Because you got to think the deterioration of old deer's teeth. You can't have them biting a frozen corn kernel. So if it's cracked, it's already basically pre-chewed, and that will allow them to swallow it whole.
Interesting.
And so, I mean, you guys got a deer before and then seen whole corn, whole corn kernels. Yeah, they just swallow it. And so, and if it's coming out in their gut pile, it's not doing, well, obviously you don't see it in their feces, so they do break it down. But again, you're just taking one of the steps out for those old bucks. And, all these little tiny factors and details go into adding. All of this could be just an extra, 15, 20%. But that takes a 180 to a 200.
100%.
And that's really what it ends up taking for us anyway, with how I hunt and target 200s is I grow them on wild free ranging farms in Iowa, obviously. And so I'm not going out buying deer, doing any of those things. I'm trying to grow them on my own farm. And that's what makes it super difficult to do, but it takes all the extra steps.
So then these guys that are struggling, they are having success seeing deer, and it's not like so much a hunting strategy. It's just they aren't reaching their potential, in your opinion.
Well, that, and they can't find them. They're there. It's unbelievable how many times I've went on a farm. If I buy a farm, I go on the farm and these guys are good hunters. And I'm like, why are your cameras here? Like, this is a terrible spot. That needs to be over here or there or there. And then they sell the farm because it sucks. And then I buy the farm and then literally, bam, I get multiple big giants on deer because the pattern of a 5 to 7 or 8 year old deer are just different. So they're patterning the 3 and 4 year olds, and they have an incubator farm every year. Once they turn 5, they disappear and they're gone. And I don't know where they are. And I'm like, Well, they're living in different areas. They've now upgraded their deer currency. And I say that because we had this conversation before. Yeah, they're now the mature dog on the hill, so now they go and they get the best areas. They get the most least pressured, the places they're not going. And so they don't have cameras there because they may not know that that place exists, or they haven't done the woodsmanship to be able to figure out what that looks like. And so what ends up happening is they always don't find the deer after it turns 5 or 6. And then they'll randomly get pictures during the rut, and all the deer are moving in the rut. Well, they probably were there most of the time. It's just now their home range has expanded so much that they'll run in front of their camera from time to time.
The Hunter Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know people have been looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but we just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archer Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have, only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays. Yeah. I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator. Dude, it's been super interesting this year. I've had more of an opportunity to observe a part of my farm where I felt like, hey, we had an opportunity to, it's just the furthest away from property lines. And we've invested a lot into the habitat there and stuff. We brought a feeder in there this year for the first time, as an attempt to kind of hold deer there more. And so I've got a few deer that are 5 and 6 years old. There's 2 6-year-old deer and 1 5-year-old deer in this little clear cut is kind of what it is. It's kind of it's just its own, island or finger of timber, and it's decent size. Okay. And I've seen these deer from the road now multiple times. It's kind of like clockwork. I can go and watch them from the road every night. And they are, this feeder is right on the edge of the clear cut. I haven't got one picture of this 1 6-year-old deer in at least a month. I got a picture of them there in the summer, on a mineral, before I put the feeder in there. So maybe it's the fact that it's a new feeder or whatever. But I've got other scrapes and stuff kind of in the direction of if they're to travel out of that area, I'm going to get them. And they're just not doing it. He's coming out. He stages in that clear cut. He comes out and stages in the edge of these beans that he's in. And I've watched him the other night. He'll walk out into the ditch in the middle of these beans and lay down 20 minutes before dark, and he'll wait for it to get to completely dark, and then he'll cross the road and go over into some alfalfa. That's what he's doing as of 4 days ago. No pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this happens to every one of us. How many times do we go and sit in a spot where we have trail cameras, and how many deer do we see versus how many pictures we get when we can actually see? What do you get a picture of? Maybe 5 to 10% of the deer you actually see.
Right, probably.
And so, it could be more depending on where you're hunting and the setup or whatever. But we all experience that. And we talked about this the last time, how they avoid cell cameras and they're hyper tuned in to their maybe radio frequencies. There's all kinds of rabbit holes we can dive into with this. But at the end of the day, that's where that woodsmanship comes in, right? So you studied that deer's pattern now, you've visually seen him. So you could go put a camera somewhere to probably get him on camera very consistently based on what you've able to observe.
Well, let me ask you, Josh, in that situation there, he's in that clear cut. It's black and white. He's in there. I don't know exactly where, but I watched him for 2 days, and at this point, I'm there is no play. You can't get to the edge of that clear cut without them busting out of there. And he's not making it to the next block of timber before dark. So I'm he can't be killed there, unless we killed him in the field. We tried to do something, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so for that specific scenario, right, this just goes back into that deer that's over 5 years old. And so I think this is a good time to segue into this, because so many people, they don't realize or even think to the level of why a deer like that is doing that. They're like, oh, he's just smart. Well, he's old. And so the reality of what people don't realize is when a deer becomes over 5 years old, how did he even get that old? He got that old by being hyper tuned into his environment and being hypersensitive to threats. Because if he wasn't, he would have been killed by coyotes, by, or hunters, really. And so when these deer get that old,
it may help you too. It may help you to know, Josh, just for context on this deer, he has been super elusive his whole life. I'm like, he's been there every year, but I just have so few encounters, so few pictures. I'm like, I don't know if this deer is living on us or this is the first time I've really seen him consistently for a few times, and I got enough pictures of the summer that I'm like, so he's been this way his whole life, but even still, I'm like, boy, he's to that age of maturity, and he has a history of being extremely elusive.
So if I was to try to kill this deer, sorry, I don't know how that came through. Let me turn this on airplane mode real quick.
We didn't get that on our end.
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay, good. So if I was to try to come in and kill this deer, if you have access to everywhere where he's going, he's just not in daylight.
We do, yep.
So then, he will move more in daylight with massive cold fronts. That's where you get him. So I would have two strategies. Obviously, if you can feed, that's one strategy. But in Iowa, I'm just going to say everything what I would do in Iowa if this was my scenario in Iowa, because feeding, it doesn't really help anybody for the most part, I would say. And so water is so much more important than food. A deer has to drink every single day. He doesn't have to eat. But he's drinking somewhere.
Yep.
And so if what you're looking at is on top of a hill, for example, and he's getting his drink, he's drinking down in like a still part of a river or a pond or somewhere nearby that's far away, and an area he likes, you could put a watering hole in that area.
So I think he's drinking in the clear cut. I don't know exactly where. I think there's some, it's on the edge of an ag field. There's some springs in there. And I would venture to say there's probably some like stagnant water in there that he's drinking.
Yeah. So you could find that if you could get to it, that could work.
Yep.
We'll dive through every single possible scenario with this. So the waterworks, scrapes are massive, dude. Yeah. I mean, holy crap, are scrapes massive. I killed most of my deer on big scrapes. Yep. And so you optimize the scrape to make it the best spot there. So you go around, I'll find a scrape. No, build the scrape exactly where you want it. Yep. Use oak leaves, use zip ties, and we can dive into every detail of what makes a good scrape. I mean, we can do this now, we could do it later, but we'll finish the strategy on this deer, and then we can kind of dive into the more details later. Is fine. A scrape, watering hole, and if your access you can't get into, you can create barriers with farming equipment and bales of straw, bales of hay. You can I do this on some of my blinds. I'll literally bring in bales and put bales to where I can get in and get out of my blinds without being seen. And so you can optimize ways of being able to kill him without being there and seeing it. I'm kind of limited to this, but I can tell you if he will do it in daylight with the right weather conditions. But with the scrape specifically, you want to wait till after a big rain. And if you can get him hitting a scrape anywhere in there, he will absolutely hit that after a rain. Okay. And there's a reason for that.
100% with you. We've had a lot of success doing the exact same thing. Here's where I struggle with that in this specific scenario is like, generally I don't do those kind of like primary scrapes or whatever we're going to call it on a field edge. Generally they're like in a transition area. They're like on the edge of a bedding area, which technically this is, but it's like if I found scrapes, so in my mind, I'm like, maybe I can get to the edge of this clear cut, but not directly out from where he's coming out of it. I think he's coming out and working straight out into this ag field, and who knows, that may change the next week when they cut these beans. Cut them. So would you do something like that on the edge of an ag field, like where you wouldn't necessarily expect to find primary scrapes? It's going to be just like, but I know he's out there in daylight. You know what I mean? So do you just build one further down the line and try to pull him down? And I'm with you on the condition, like it's after that rain, that's the time to hunt it and stuff. But
yeah, I do lots of scrapes on the edge of ag fields. A lot, actually. I put them in my food plots. I do all this. If he's coming out a specific trail and you want him to come out a different trail, you could take a weed eater in there and optimize a better trail knowing where he's coming from. And so literally I do this all the time. So I never block trails, but I make them inconvenient. So I'll cut a tree to where there's a branch hanging in front of it, which does can still do. I've just not had good success blocking a trail. It freaks the deer out sometimes. I just don't, but I make it inconvenient for the deer. There's a branch, and then what I do is I take a weed eater and I weed eat a new trail that goes to the same place, and it may take a tiny bit longer, but it comes right by my tree stand,
Mm-hmm.
or my blind or whatever. So I do this all the time by optimizing trails, and that could work. And so then you optimize it and it comes right over to a scrape that you build. That again is perfect. So when you make scrapes, you got to make it the best. And so I don't care what branch is there. You just bring branches with you.
Let's do it. Let's break down a scrape. Why don't you go for it?
Okay. So let's first break down what everyone makes in terms of scrapes, the mistakes that they make. I think this is important. So most people make scrapes too high. A deer is not that tall. Your scrape at its height should be under 5.5 feet, usually 4.5 to 5 feet. I think the back of a deer is 3.5 feet off the ground.
Probably.
So then his head gets to 4. And so they make it for the buck. And they think about, I want the buck to be in the scrape. Well, a buck isn't going to hit a scrape if none of the does can reach it, or the little fawns. You're going to want all the deer to do this, because most people's mindset with scrapes are so wrong. They use the scrapes. They think the scrape has to do with the rut. And it is just a complete myth and a lie. Deer use scrapes all year long. I have deer clearing out 6 inches of snow working a scrape in January. And they use this as a form of communication, because deer, if you look at the way a deer has been designed, they have scent glands everywhere. They have preorbital gland scents. They have salivary glands. They have, what's the one on their forehead? I can't. It's anyway. It's a forehead gland. They have
forehead gland. They've got interdigital glands in their feet.
Yeah,
in the hooves.
Interdigital glands. They have anal glands. I mean, they have all this. Why do you think dogs go up and sniff each other's butts? And so the deer have all of these different glands. So their primary source of communication is scent. And so whenever they're dealing with scrapes and all of these things, they're going and seeing who's around. They're coming in. They want to see, is there a new buck in the area? Is a new doe? And they're just communicating. And they do this all summer long. And we can dive into summer scrapes versus fall scrapes. They're very different.
Keep it October for now. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, a summer scrape, you do not make them the same, because they have velvet that they're trying to protect. So if you use a big hardy oak branch and they get up there and it's hitting their antlers, they're not going to like it. So in the summer, I like to do single individual branches that they can just kind of get up and get their preorbital glands into, their forehead glands. You'll see them lick the branch to get their salivary glands into it. And they're way more delicate in the summer. Now, come fall, the big oak branch, I mean, they love the antlers up in the branches, the noise it's making, but they're able to get all that scent all over it. And then another thing with scrapes that most people do is they don't clear the ground. I literally take a weed eater and I make a bare dirt. It's got to be bare dirt. And so I pull out all the roots, I weed eat it till it's bare dirt. And then around the scrape, you want it to be where they can walk 360 degrees around it. If it's right up next to something else, they can't get under it. They feel confined. And so you want it to be kind of overhanging. And how you do this is you can literally cut branches and zip tie them. And then if it's too high, you just add more branch weight until zip tie pieces of tree, whatever, until it gets to that 4.5 to 5 foot range. And then if it's too low, then you can cut branches until it rises up, and you can adjust the height of it by doing it like that with zip ties. And then on top of that, what you want to be able to do is after you get the height right and you get the right branches, you make sure you have vertical branches because deer like the vertical branches to be able to get into their preorbital glands. And so if they can't get into their preorbital glands, then it's kind of hard when the branch is at a horizontal line, because they can't really get their eye into it. And so same thing with their salivary glands. They like it whenever they can get the branches deep into their mouth. You'll see them kind of stick it in there. And so having a good vertical branch, at least one, is good. And you could just literally break it in half, but don't break it all the way, and they'll protect that branch. They really will. So the young ones might break it off, but keep an eye on it. And then also on top of that is going back to the bare dirt side of it.
Real quick.
After you do the
real quick, Josh, before you move on from the branch part of it, what do you think of vines? We've used a lot of vines, and as I'm listening to you talk, maybe it is more in line with what you're saying from a summer standpoint, but in my case here, I leave the same ones year round, and I think I've had pretty good success on it. What do you think of the vines?
Vines are awesome if you find the right vine.
Right.
So the problem that you're going to have with vines is they break. And so once you cut them,
interesting. That's the problem I was having with branches. That's why I moved.
Oh, really?
Well, because I always wanted the perfect height on the branch, and I would like, so I'm like,
Sure.
well, I would break it halfway and try to get it perfect. But then after a few weeks, few months, they die even more, and then they start to droop and stuff. Started getting really annoyed with that. So that's why I moved to vines.
Oh yeah, I do both. So I'll run a vine in the branch. I don't have that problem because I zip tie so much of the tree.
I've seen yours. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of zip tied in there. So and if they break it and I see it on camera and they're not using it anymore, I'll just go in and redo it. You know, but the vines work really, really well.
Cool.
But you can't make them too big. I think what do you think? Maybe 3/4 of an inch diameter is about the best.
Yep.
If they're too big, they don't use them. If they're too small, they break.
Yeah.
And so if you can find the right vine and have that available, then it works really, really well. I've had great success with that.
Agreed.
I haven't had great success with the ropes.
Me neither.
A lot of guys do though.
I hear it. I'm like, I've tried them, dude. I can't get them to touch them. I don't know.
I know. I've tried it. I have them hit it from time to time, but it's the vines.
Here's a great example, Josh. In Illinois, on that farm that we bought, there was an old rope. It was an old, like, raggedy, it had been there forever. And I think there was remnants of a scrape. There were, okay, this used to be a scrape, but I didn't like where it was. So we had a spot just up the hill, 50 yards from where it was to where I wanted it to be. We took that rope, cut it off the branch that it was on, took it up, and I hung it from a vine. So this branch was way up. I tied a vine off onto it with parachute cord, and then I tied the rope at the end of it as kind of like the end piece there. They freaking just didn't care, didn't like it, didn't touch it. They would look at it from a distance a whole year. I left it there the entire year, and they just never really did anything with it. So this past year, we went in and I just cut off the rope part of it, tied on a small section of vine on it, and they're on it like clockwork.
I love that. Yeah. And so again, people have I've seen mature deer hit ropes. And so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing something that's not working with the rope because I've tried them because it would be super convenient to have a truck full of rope and just throw it out there.
Yeah.
But it's because trying to find vines and doing all that things. The problem is when I make scrapes, I do about 120 scrapes a year. Is how many scrapes I make.
Wow.
So for me with vines and all this, I can find an oak branch anywhere, so I just end up doing that. But the vines, if I've got a real primo spot that I love, the vine is 100% right.
Huh? Cool.
And but I want to finish. I want to finish the perfect scrape.
Do it.
So to recap, so then we can kind of summarize this. Obviously, you want the scrape between the branches to being between 4.5 to 5 feet. They could go as low as 4, but you don't want to get too low. And then bare dirt. And then if you're in weedy stuff, take the weed eater and weed eat around it as well. So it's all nice and flat. And then the scrape itself is bare. Yeah. Then you have to take a rake, not a leaf rake, a garden rake, hard,
like a rock rake is what you call it.
Yeah, and you freaking scrape that ground and get that thing and then stomp on it, break up the clumps, get it to where it's fluffy. Yeah. Then you can take a leaf rake and make it fluffy. It needs to be fluffy because it needs to have about...
It needs to be fluffy.
It needs to be fluffy because you need about, I would say, a little over almost a half inch of dirt. And the reason that is, it's important because they have a digital gland in their hoof. They need to be able to press into the fluffy dirt or the dirt to be able to get the scent of their interdigital gland into that scrape. Because if you ever watch a buck make a scrape and you see him over there, if you go over there after that, which I wouldn't recommend, you're going to screw up your hunt, but if you do, you will see a single footprint right in the middle of that scrape. It's kind of their stamp. It's kind of cool how they do that. And so they put that in there, and that digital gland. So this is amazing about deer. And I want to come back to the scrape, but we're talking about interdigital gland. So when a deer blows at you, it stomps its foot.
Yeah.
You know why it does that?
To put the gland down.
Yeah, because they're excreting a different smell when they stomp versus when they do a scrape. And so they did this study in humans actually, which is really, really cool. So they took the smell of sweat and they let people smell the sweat, and then they measured their response in their body. And so they took a person that was sweating from skydiving. And so a fear was induced whenever they were sweating, and the person smelled that and they started feeling anxiety and a fear response. Then they took a person that was I think I could get this part wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were having sex. And
let me just get some of that real quick. Okay.
And then the person started feeling like aroused or whatever the case is just by the smell. But the person themselves didn't notice the difference. But you think about that, and then you think about the level of smell that a deer has. Yeah. They can smell all the difference and cognitively understand what it means. So when there's a fear response and the deer stomps its hoof, that scent is going to be different than a normal one.
So here, I know we're all over the place here. This is in a good way. Do you think they can pick up on human scent the same way that humans can, in the sense that if you're in there farming and that's truly your attitude, do you think they can smell that and they're less bothered by that than if you're in there hunting?
I don't know, other than there's an old Indians, when the old Indians used to say, when they would go hunt, they're like, I'm just going to go watch birds.
Yeah.
I'm not actually killing anything. I'm just going and observing. Right. And you see them do that. And it's kind of interesting because their mindset was that there was an energy field that the deer could sense when you're hunting them.
For sure.
And you see this with women. A lot of women can get away with a lot more in the woods than a man can. Yep. And I've seen this firsthand many times with Sarah. When she was pregnant, she could literally just freaking crawl up to almost anything. It was insane. I was watching her, and then I mean, it was crazy, like how close she could get. And I was like, that's weird. And I thought that was kind of insane to think of, but I definitely do believe that. Okay. But let's put a pin in the scrape and we can move on.
Interdigital. Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then we'll finish the scrape and then we can talk about the danger aspect of it.
Cool.
So when you get it all, the ground's fluffed up, it's bare, it's all this, right height, all that. Then pee in the scrape.
Yep.
Like you as a man, whatever, pee in the scrape, or always have a gallon of water.
Yeah.
It'll be very important that you bring water because water and moisture hold scent. Mm-hmm. So I put maybe about 8 to 9 ounces of water in the scrape, and I kind of fluff it up a little bit to where it's damp, because that will make a huge difference. A lot of guys miss this step. And then in the actual branch itself, I do use my own product, which is the Secret Scrape by Bowmar Archery. And I don't even know if we have some in stock. If we do, you guys should definitely pick some up.
Sure, cool.
Because I don't even know if we're going to remake it or not.
That's not the stuff that it was like a family recipe. Is that the same stuff you told us about last time? Oh, it is. Cool.
Yeah. So that's like a grandpa's secret recipe. That's why it's called the Secret Scrape, which is cool. And so it's fun. So that works. I do not. Oh my God. Please, God, listen to me, guys. When you do not put pee in the branches.
Oh yeah, dude.
So many guys do estrus in the tree.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Don't do that.
That's crazy,
Put nothing
man.
in there over that.
I think the water or the moisture in the scrape is a big one, because we've been talking about that all year. Prior to getting rain last week, like typically we start to see some pretty good scrape activity, especially when they shed out in early September through that mid-September period. And like it was dead. Like we had better scrape activity in the summer than we had almost the entire month of September, because there was no moisture in the ground.
Yeah.
Like they just completely were avoiding them.
Yeah. And so that's important to add that in there. So I do 2 things whenever I make scrapes. I have a gallon jug that I drink nonstop while I'm doing scrapes, so I can pee in every scrape. It is very hard because a deer only pees like 6 to 8 ounces. So we hold like a lot of pee. So you got to pee a little bit and pull it back and stop it.
It's hard to shut it off.
No, you don't. You cut it off just to hold some for the next one?
Yeah, you.
Wow, that's discipline.
You can't give them all the goods.
So you think that urine is important?
I do, yeah. Because after 20 minutes, the human aspect of it's gone. So then the aroma and the urea or whatever it is,
the ammonia,
that they're smelling, that is great. I mean, they don't know the difference. I mean,
do you think it bothers them if they're to be the first? So like I've seen guys with a jug. I know you're a big advocate of that, of water and stuff.
Sure.
And I've always kind of felt like I build them so far in advance that I'm like, it's going to rain, like in the next couple of days here type of thing, which essentially takes care of that. Yes. Or no?
Repeat that question. I'm sorry, I missed it.
I said, so if I don't do the gallon, but then it rains 2 or 3 days later, like it is the same thing, right? Like it essentially accomplishes that.
Yeah, but you got to think with compression, the water will then flatten that ground out. And so you got to keep that in mind. If it rains really hard and the deer don't rework that scrape, you're going to need to go rework that scrape, because then there won't be that layer of fluff there that is important for them to get that interdigital gland to be able to press into that. And so normally once you get a scrape established, the deer will rework it up. But if it's a new scrape that they're not used to communicating with and using, you're going to have to go in and redo that. And the other time you'll have to redo it is if once the leaves start dying and falling off the branch, it'll slowly rise out of the range that they like. So your 4.5 foot scrape is now at 6 feet. And you're like, why'd the deer stop using it? And that's where having a vine is actually really important, right? Because if the branch rises, that vine can still be, that vine can go down to 3 feet. And now that vine is still in the range that is necessary for them to be able to interact with. But yeah, that roughing the ground up and then getting it nice and airy in there and then having some moisture in there is going to be helpful. The best time to make scrapes actually is, maybe the post day of a moderate rain, because then the moisture's already in the ground. You don't have to do the extra steps.
Sure. Yep. But the urine is important, huh? I guess, I've always done it just as like a, hey, who knows, but it's not hurting anything. But yeah, I can see that it could help too.
And I've done both urine and not urine. I mean, sometimes I don't have any urine in me. If I'm doing 50, 60 scrapes or something like that.
That's a lot of urine.
That's a lot of urine. Even for Josh Bowmar, that's a lot of urine.
It's a lot. And I try to put 4 or 5 ounces, shut the valve off.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
You're like, babe, time me. I got to get 6 ounces here. Cut it off. Cut it off.
Cut it off. If I get bladder cancer, it's because of this.
That's very possible.
Give me the zip ties.
So with that, where were we going with this?
I don't know. Something about scrapes.
Well, you were saying you were saying that it's got to be, if you don't fluff it and do the moisture and you just get rain, then you could actually create like more of like a harder surface there that they're not going to
You walk past Jeremy's like, has this scrape been fluffed? I don't think the scrape's been fluffed. Get the fluffer over here. Somebody's got to fluff this scrape.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get the scrape established, they'll come back and rework it just fine. But it's like getting that first initial establishment is kind of difficult. So scrape location is super important. If you put it in the middle of nowhere where there's no deer, well, then you're not going to have any action no matter how good the scrape is. So the woodsmanship goes in back into it. You want it to be in transition areas. Edge of fields is fine. And another thing people make mistakes is they cut down all the other scrapes in the area, so they only use theirs. Terrible idea. Do not do that, because a lot of people have this mindset that they're only going to hit one of these scrapes. I have literally watched a mature buck, a 5-year-old deer, hit 4 scrapes in the same field. And it was like scrape, 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 scrape. And the problem is it's a preference thing, right? He may have had an interaction with one of those scrapes that's a positive situation for him. For example, like say you go to a bar and you have a seat at the bar that you picked a chick up from once. It kind of has a sense of like, oh, that's a good seat. I like that seat. Now someone goes and rips that seat out. And you're like, well, there's other seats. It's fine. I like this one because from a deer's perspective, it was this exact height. It was this exact species of tree. It had the fluffiest ground, whatever you want to say. There's a preference to it that he enjoyed from that. That doesn't mean that he's not going to go to the other scrapes. And so guys do this all the time. And I'm like, you guys are making a huge mistake because you just don't know which one he likes the most. And if your scrape isn't the king in the area, then why is that? So what I've done in the past, which I don't know if it's conclusively a good idea or a bad idea, but it is something that you can do, is you find a scrape that they absolutely love, but you can't hunt it, and he doesn't come over to your scrape. I have taken and cut that scrape, those branches, and then zip tied those into my scrape.
Same.
I have done that. And so again, each situation is so unique and different. So you got to remember, exceptions don't make the rules.
Right.
And so everyone will be able to, everything I say, there's going to be a counter, very rare exception that's like, And so that's where the rule is, don't cut any scrapes down. But the exception would be they're not hitting your scrape at all, and they keep hitting this other scrape, and it's in a terrible spot, you can't get to it. Then you could take that scrape branch and then put it onto a scrape that's better.
Especially,
and you should get good response.
And especially when like everything we're talking about here, and people listening to this get it too, is like we're talking about observation data, which automatically has some bias involved, right? There are things that we can see, and there's things that we can't see that are happening at any given time out there in the woods. And so we're making conclusions and plans and strategies based on the observation data we have and what we can see, but there's absolutely things that are happening out there that could support this or oppose it that we don't see, that are happening in the woods at any given time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
As far as location, Josh, what do you think about like in the scenario we ran earlier about this deer in the clear cut? It's not a big clear cut. It's like couple acres. You know, I mean, it's like they're.
Sure.
What would you think about putting a scrape like that right in it? Maybe not even that you could hunt necessarily. Maybe that you could, but really from an observation standpoint, knowing that hey, these bucks bed in this clear cut. Go ahead.
So when you say as clear cut, is it just CRP or is it just like a grass field? Like what kind of clear cut is this? Is it in the timber?
Yep.
Like kind of lay it out for me a little bit.
So it was pastured timber. The most recent has been pastured was like 10 years ago, but it's fairly compacted. It's not amazing.
Okay.
There was talk of putting solar panels through this whole ag field, including this block of timber, 5 years ago. So they went in and they cut a lot of the trees out. It's not a complete clear cut. I don't know why they left some stand, but there's a handful of trees in there, but there's a ton of sun hitting the ground. And so the deer have just flocked to it.
It's almost like a shelter wood cut where like they left some trees to potentially reforest.
And there's cuts in it. There's little like ditches from those springs and stuff. And there's enough topography that they just like to be in it.
Yeah, so something that I do in areas that are open that I can't get a scrape to, for example. So let's say it's in a food plot or a clear cut CRP. I do this a lot in CRP, and I can't quite get him to the edge because he's in the middle of it, right? But I can shoot him out there, but I need him to kind of come to one side or the other. Here's what I do. So there's two things. You can do a white pine post. So they will go absolutely crazy for a white pine post. They're very popular in Wisconsin. You can pick them up there. Put a white pine post in the middle of that thing. He will freaking go crazy over that. Or I actually take an oak tree like this big around. So I'll take like an oak branch that's off of a big oak tree. And then what I do is I go to Menards, Home Depot, whatever, Tractor Supply probably has them, and they sell these post setting foam. Okay, so this post setting foam, it does not smell. It's kind of strange. Like, and what I do is I take an electric auger. And I take an auger, I drill out a hole this big around. I drag this giant tree over. It's literally 15, 20 feet tall. Like this branch is huge. And I post it into the ground at an angle. So then it has this huge arcing sweep. And then where the post is versus where the actual branch is, that is probably 10 to 15 feet away. And I put it right in the middle of the field. And then the post, I'll have it set. And then it hardens. And then I break off all the extra foam that comes out of the hole. But I keep it at the exact angle I want. And then I wait till it sets. It takes less than 2 minutes. And then I take all the extra foam away. I put it in a trash bag, throw it in the truck, and then I bury the dirt over top of it. And then I optimize a scrape in the middle of the field. When a deer sees that, dude, they go freaking crazy because they're like, holy cow, this is an area I love. And now there's something out here, and they go over there, they'll investigate it, and it becomes part of their routine to where they go into the clear cut, they'll come over because it's an optimized height, location. You do all the same things with the scrape. You clear out that area around it for a deer can do 360 degrees. You fluff up the dirt. You obviously optimize the branches. You put a vine in there, and they're going to go to it.
What do you think about, like, so at this point in the season, I'm like, it may be overkill, frankly, for me to go to that level just because I know he's in the clear cut. Basically, what I would do is I would just drive the tractor up to it and probably run some deer out. They'd run into the timber that it's connected to. I'd drive right through the ag field, and I would just go into a high point in. I mean, there's enough open areas. I could put a scrape in. I could put a vine scrape in there. I don't have any cameras in there or anything. I'm like, do you think it's worth doing something like that?
So any time of the year, this is super, super, super important. This is going to be a very, very important tactic that most hunters make huge mistakes with. And they try to be sneaky about doing change. They try to sneak in and hang a tree stand. They try to sneak in, and that is the worst idea. You need to hide in plain sight. So if I'm going in the timber because I need to go hang a tree stand, I literally drive my skid steer to the base of the tree. It's blowing diesel fumes everywhere. It's loud, it's clunky, it's metal. And I even if it takes me 2.5 hours to hang the set, my skid steer's on the entire time blowing diesel everywhere. And I swear to you, do this tractor situation, whatever. Drive in there. Do not use Can-Ams. Do not use four-wheelers, side-by-side, e-bikes, none of that stuff. It needs to be big in things that they're used to experiencing. Vehicles on a road, they smell all the time. They smell the rubber. All these deer we're hunting in the Midwest are crossing roads constantly. They smell fumes. Tractors in the fields, all of those things. You hide in plain sight, you pull in, and I've done this so many times. It's freaking awesome. They hear all the commotion, but it's so loud and obvious. They know right where that danger is at all times.
Mm-hmm.
They know if that thing's getting closer. So they'll run away for like 200-300 yards maybe, and they'll just kind of wait it out. And I've done this so many times. I literally hang my set. I'm smelly. I'm stinky. They come in. Afterwards, they smell the diesel, they smell the human, they make the neuroassociation with that as not negative, that they weren't trying to kill anybody.
Yep.
It'd be no different than a repairman comes into your house and repairs something. You're like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And they'll come right in and investigate it literally an hour after I leave.
Dude, honestly,
and they'll come in and smell around.
It's giving me an idea even from like, so there's a lot that we're talking about here. I would like to get a scrape and some sort of a camera into that clear cut. It just makes sense that I want to come back to like, do we think that a scrape or that a camera in a situation like that can become negative just because they're aware that it's there, but I'm not quite there yet. It's more so giving me an idea of like, why don't I just take the tractor and go just drive a loop around this small clear cut? And I know for a fact, like if they stand up or get up, I'll be able to see more pointedly like where they're coming from, which might give me some idea to hunt them. I mean, that doesn't seem like it can hurt anything.
Yeah, I'm not there to be able to see the exact layout of it to give you solid advice. My strategy would be take the tractor in there, set up whatever you need to set up. If you need to take a weed eater, mow a trail or whatever, deer do like the path of least resistance. You can, what I do in open situations like this where I have tall CRP is I'll actually make connecting trails. That come from different areas that they like, and then they cross, and where they cross is where I put that scrape tree.
This here is not CRP. It's not tall enough. It's frankly, it's not that thick. It's just pocketed timber.
Okay.
It's Ohio, right? So think about Ohio. It's like just our habitat sucks in general. Like we just have no ground level cover compared to the Midwest, It's kind of what it is.
Yeah, so I would do the scrape tree. And if there is no water nearby and it's on a high point, then the watering hole, which is a big investment in time and disruption. So I probably wouldn't go too crazy with that, but I would do the scrape, do the big ass tree right in the middle, leaning over, pull the tractor in there, get your stand all hung, and I would also do a white pine post.
Interesting that you say white pine. I've heard of red cedar.
I don't know. I've just seen insane results with white pine. Not so much with red cedar, but if other guys are saying that, like, hey, they swear by it, then it's probably similar. But the white pine, dude, is awesome. They love the white pine. I mean, I don't know what it is about it, but
it's got to be insane. Something with like the sap and using all the glandular scent being able to continue to apply and just something along that.
Can you buy that at a hardware store? A white pine post?
I don't think so. But if you look on like Facebook Marketplace, or find a white pine, you can cut something down. They sell a lot of them in Wisconsin, and they ship them in by the truckload. So with your guys' connections and stuff, you could probably find white pine.
Sure.
But if you find it, don't tell anyone about it because it's like keep
they're
it
gone.
to yourself. Because they're going to be gone. It's not like it's something that's easy to find. They don't build, anything with white pine. So people specifically are doing this for whitetail hunting.
Interesting.
And how tall of a white pine post are you putting in? Like a 5-6 footer?
Yeah, 5. No, it doesn't need to be that big at all. Just 4.5 feet, honestly, 5 feet.
Yeah.
It's small, but you need to anchor it, and most people don't anchor it well enough. So use that foam packets. It comes in these little liquid things, kind of like the glue that you mix together that turns hard. You just cut the top and mix it. It gets really hot. You put it in there, that sucker is like concrete.
Wow.
And it's light, it fits in the truck, it's easy, and it doesn't stink.
What's that stuff called? What's that called?
It's like a post foam is what you're saying?
Yeah, a post foam. They use it whenever they're setting posts.
Okay.
And so it fills up and expands in the hole. Yep. And then, dude, it's awesome. It works so well.
That sounds way better than carrying 80-pound quick read around.
Yeah, well, and it won't screw up a tractor like if it's in the middle of a field, and then you fill that post up and then you chop the tree off or it falls, the disc will work right through that stuff. And so it won't ruin the field because concrete, you don't want to do concrete and the concrete takes forever to set. So by the time you leave, the tree falls over and then it's seeded in with concrete. You don't want that.
I did one just like what you're talking about though, Josh, the full tree. I didn't bury the tree. It happened to be in exactly the right spot. It's this old logging road that comes on the downwind side. it's kind of a nice point of intersection. We've had a tree stand there. We've killed deer there. And this like a 20-foot tall white oak is what it was. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, it's perfect. You know what I mean? So I just freaking shimmied up it, grabbed the top and parachuted over and tied it off. And it's like, it's a whole scrape tree.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, those scrapes are so critical. So let's kind of dive in now that everyone knows how to build the best scrape and they kind of have all the rules to follow. Let's roll through with how to use them to actually kill the deer. I think that'll be important.
Yep.
So I used to use rubber gloves when I did it. I stopped doing that. The deer don't seem to mind. I do not touch the branches that they'll interact with. So that's an important role. I don't use a lot of the secret scrape. I do a little bit. It doesn't take much, maybe an ounce. You pee in the scrape, you got the perfect scrape. Now, how do you kill the deer on it? Well, the deer has to know it's there. So you need to run a camera on it and see if the deer are interacting with it.
Yep.
If they're not interacting with it, there's going to be some issues. It could be the tree choice. It could be too low. It could be too high. It could just be in a bad spot, at the end of the day. So you might have to make a few of them until you get him to where he's consistently hitting it. So when he will hit that scrape is going to be after a rainstorm.
Yep.
I've killed probably 3 of my 7 200s post-rain scrapes.
Wow.
On post-rain scrapes. Because what happens is, first of all, there's going to be an element of scent that gets washed away depending on the severity of the scrape. But it's also primed to hold their scent.
Yeah.
That's the part that people are missing. They think it's like washing away the scent, which can happen, of course.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like the best seat in the bar is now freed up, and they're going to go in there and they're going to freaking work it, and they're putting their scent in there. They're super aggressive. That is their number one priority post rain.
Yes.
Not food, not anything.
Yes.
Now it just depends. Are they going to do it in the dark or in the daylight? But a lot of the deer like to hit the scrapes in the daylight. They'll hit them in the night for sure, but in the daylight, I've had tremendous success post rain.
Yeah.
And so, and not to mention, if you can do it like it rains in the morning, that evening, be hunting. Hunting in the rain can be really, really amazing if it's a rising pressure. That's an important distinction. If it's a falling pressure during the rain, the deer are not moving.
Yeah.
But a rising pressure in the rain could be one of your best.
It's interesting. I was going to ask you about the timing, and you say same day. So if it cuts off that day, be in there that night.
Yeah, or if you have a camera over there, yeah. So if it cuts off at like noon, I would be there that night. And then if he doesn't hit that, be cautious, the next day in the evening, morning, if you can get in and get out.
Yes.
Access is everything. If you cannot get in, and most importantly, get out, then your spot sucks. You got to be ready to kill him the first time you go in, or he'll just start avoiding that area.
Yeah, to me, and I've not timed it perfectly. It's just all of this is observational stuff. It's like, first of all, 100% agree, dude. After it stops raining, they are going to hit that scrape. It's just a matter of when. Yeah. It's like that. That's the most effective tool we all have in our belt in October. To me, I've hunted it prematurely. I think enough times that I've like backed off now. So we have this rain coming up here. I think it's like it stops in the morning or midday on Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm not as excited about going to hunt that spot on Wednesday, just based on what I've seen. To me, like Thursday is the day, and potentially in the morning. And I have one of those spots that's like I can get in the morning and stuff. And it's just they just freaking do the thing, So, and they might hit it both. He might hit it that morning, Thursday morning, coming back. But I was going to ask you about the time frame. Like, is it next day?
It depends on the severity of the rain, because if it's a really wet rain, they won't hit it until it dries a little, because it'll be mud.
Yeah.
They don't want mud. They want it to be kind of that kind of not quite clumpy kind of moisture. So it could be multiple days post a rain if it's a 1 or 2 incher,
right.
And so then everything's too wet, because now that mud is actually blocking their interdigital glands.
Yeah.
So it's not even going to be useful to them. And if it's so wet, the scent is going to be falling off the branches into the bottom.
Yeah.
So it needs to be moist, not soaked.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you have something that's soaked, you got to wait for the air to dry it out. So depending on the severity of the rain, there's no perfect formula. You just think about an ag field. Would you drive on your farm? If the answer is no, because you're going to leave ruts everywhere, then it's too early.
Yeah.
If you're like, I could probably get through the farm without tearing it up, then that's going to be the optimized time.
I have thought or speculated that it's like more pressure related, more just like general movement. It's like, because the fronts seem to almost always take longer to clear out than we think. Like, you look at the forecast and you're like, oh, it's going to stop raining Wednesday morning. By Wednesday night, it's going to be peak. They're going to be moving, crushing scrapes and stuff. And when I've done those sits, it just almost seems like it's still, like the front's still there. It's still lingering. It hasn't kind of cleared out yet. But then the next day comes and that pressure starts to rise. It's more bluebird, and then they come and they crush.
Well, I think it is rising at the time. It's just you don't have that bluebird super high pressure stance, you know, that you would on the next day. It's just, it is starting, it has bottomed out and it is starting to come back, but it still feels like it's lingering. You know,
get me fired up about some of these. That's why I'm trying to reschedule these podcasts for Thursday. Like, they're going to do the thing, you know?
Yeah.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, hard to believe, but Deer Grow has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at deergrow.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
Yeah, well, I mean, guys, we should talk about this. I think this will be actually super fun. So with the deer in their brain, do you guys know why they interact with the pressure systems and like this?
No. I don't know.
Yeah. So this is actually super cool and interesting. So there's a part of all of our brains called the hypothalamus. In a deer, it's hypersensitive to environmental cues and all these other things, but it's actually part of the limbic system that is regulating hormones. And I mean, a bunch of other things. So we got to talk about this. This is super, super important and cool. So the pressure system, when it starts rising, they actually have like receptors in their nasal cavities that are sensitive to air pressure. And so when that pressure starts changing, it actually triggers the hypothalamus and starts a chemical reaction in the deer's body that they can't even control, which is super, super cool.
Wow.
And so there's cortisol levels actually rise. So it increases their alertness. They're not as tired or sleepy. They get restless. That's why when the pressure is rising, they kind of get restless and they want to start moving. But there's a hormone that gets released, which is really, really important one. And it's called ghrelin. And ghrelin is the controlling hormone of your hunger. And so when it gets released in the body, it makes them hungry. And this, of course, is important to understand, and it's important from an evolutionary aspect of it, because you think about the evolutionary aspect of it, that pressure change in a wild, unpredictable environment could mean detrimental, weather that they can't move for multiple days.
Right.
They don't know, right? So they may need to have the food resources to be able to withstand multiple days of not eating. So all of that is a chemical response that they can't even control, which is really amazing. And so when that pressure systems are rising like that, it triggers that ghrelin. They're going to go try to eat and find food. And if the pressure system, if it's a real nasty downpour or whatever you guys are talking about, they're hunkered down naturally. So that's what you're talking about. The post front bluebird skies, that pressure system still needs to be high though. If you get that high pressure system, that ghrelin is still going to be through the roof because again, the nasal receptors have triggered the hypothalamus to increase cortisol, increase the ghrelin production. And so then they're still hungry and now it's safe. So you get this perfect storm and recipe for maximum daylight movement. And that is going to be when you can kill those deer.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
I've never even heard some of those words before.
Oh yeah, well, it's my biology background, in the human side of things with exercise physiology and all that fun stuff. We learn about that as bodybuilders as well because ghrelin's a really important thing for us to regulate if we're trying to diet or bulk.
Yeah.
You know, if we can take a supplement that increases our ghrelin production, well, then now we're going to be hungry more, so we'll eat more and we can grow bigger.
Yeah.
Now, if we're dieting, if we can suppress our ghrelin, well, now that makes dieting easier.
Yeah.
And so it crosses over into mammals of all kinds. But because we rely on tools and technologies to manage our risk assessment, we're not tuned into our hypothalamus like animals are.
Right.
So their entire survival is based on how well tuned their hypothalamus is. And that's what's interesting is that it has a cascade effect that most people don't take in consideration. And it's kind of an interesting thing to kind of know and understand, because you can use it to your advantage if you're paying attention. So if you pay attention and you see there's a pressure system coming, everyone just says cold front. I'm like, okay, but if that pressure starts rising the day before the cold front, you're going to miss it, because they're going to be going crazy when the pressure's rising. And then you're hunting the cold front and you're like, oh, it's kind of dead, and the pressure's already falling, even though the cold weather is there.
Right.
The typical rule of thumb is the pressure system will rise and stay high during the cold front, which is still obviously great.
Yeah.
And you can kill them.
That's interesting. Is that obviously, side note, because I'm not a doctor, is that like the same mechanisms that like the GLP-1s and stuff in humans use? Because isn't that like a hunger regulating shot, like the Wegovy's or whatever of the world?
Yeah, there's a ton of different pathways that kind of uses. For people to use those, I mean, honestly, it's not a bad thing, especially if you microdose it, because it has a lot to do with like insulin sensitivity and that aspect of it, which the more you diet, the more insulin sensitive you are, the better nutrition partitioning that you're capable of doing or obtaining. So then those hunger imbalances, I mean, we can get into this for people if you'd like. It's kind of a segue from deer. But so, for example, if you eat a lot of carbs, your insulin is kind of the doorkeeper to your cells with energy. So when you eat carbs, your cells are going to want that energy. So it goes in and opens the doors to your cells. And so that's whenever it stores all that energy. And so if you don't eat a lot of carbs, which that's the style dieting that I do, I don't eat a lot of carbs. I eat mostly, I don't eat a ketogenic diet. I eat a high protein diet, and I make my own carbohydrates from protein through a process called glycogenesis. So my body can actually convert protein into glucose without having the inflammatory responses of eating carbohydrates, because carbs aren't the enemy. But when you eat bleached rice or you eat whatever that's full of gluten and wheat and pasta, the byproduct of the carbohydrates of the mechanism you're having it enter your body typically is terrible for you. Fruit with fructose. I mean, there's all these different aspects that make it bad. And so I prefer to actually make my own carbohydrates through that process of glycogenesis.
How is that different? How is that different, Josh, from the keto? What's the difference?
So my body is not using ketones as a primary source of energy. It's actually using glucose, but I'm not eating glucose. So it's converting and making its own glucose.
And that's based on the diet itself, the things that you're eating?
Yeah, and it's way better for you to build muscle tissue and eat more than you'd ever want, because the thermic effect of food, and again, I'm sorry for the deer hunters listening to this, but I hope you find this interesting. It's kind of cool. So the thermic effect of food is how many calories it takes to process the food itself. So that's important to understand. And of all the macronutrients in the world, protein has the highest thermic effect of any food, which what that means is it actually takes 20%, up to 20%. It's usually 17 to 20, but it takes up to 20% of the calories from the protein to digest the protein. Which means if you eat a primary meat-based diet, a primary protein-based diet, you can eat 20% more food and not get fat, which is great.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, and it has, like I said, a less of an inflammatory aspect to your body. So and you have.
Last thing, and we'll move on from it. What are you eating for the most part, Josh? Is it meats? Is it what's the cornerstone of your diet?
Meat, eggs, and fat. And then I eat vegetables just to mix it up. I do not eat vegetables for health reasons at all.
Me neither. I kind of cut them out. I'm like,
Yeah, it's way better to supplement your vitamins and minerals, just
Yeah.
because the vegetables with capitalism, I mean, how the hell are you getting a banana in the middle of the winter in freaking Iowa?
Yeah.
You know, well, it's because it's coming from wherever they make bananas, let's say Colombia or whatever it is. They have to pick them prematurely from the vine. This is all vegetables, because if they pick them when they're ripe, they'll be rotten on the
By the
shelf.
time they get there.
So they have to, they have to pick them
chemicals.
prematurely. And the second you pick that fruit or that vegetable from the vine, it's lost its lifeline to the vitamins and minerals.
Right.
Because all the vitamins and minerals comes from the soil. And so they are the way farming practices work here in the United States. They're trying to maximize growth in the shortest period of time, which you get a much bigger, voluminous, I guess, way of saying a fruit or vegetable, but that does not mean it has more vitamins or minerals. And then it's picked prematurely before it even has time to get it all in there. And then it goes to the shelf, and it has a shelf life of what, 10 to 12 days.
Yeah.
And you think, and then you cook it. And then it wipes out what little nutrient is available. Now it's gone because you stir fried it and denatured all the vitamins and minerals with high temperatures. And so it's like, what is the point? Fiber, I can supplement fiber. And so that's I really just eat it for fun. Just because I'm like, if I want a salad, it's because I'm sick of eating and chewing on 40 ounces of steak.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, I'll eat a salad just because it's something to do. But I do not eat it for vegetable or for nutrition consumption.
Do you eat much venison or a lot of beef?
A lot of venison and beef, honestly. And eggs. I eat lots and lots of eggs.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's 90% of my food is basically meat based.
I kind of do too. That's kind of where I'm at. I would say it's like 60 to 80% that, but I eat carbs for fun, and I'm like knowingly probably sabotaging like the process that's happening there, but I like eating carbs.
Not necessarily, actually, because like if you find a carb source that you can eat that doesn't give you indigestion or inflammatory or makes your body inflamed, you'll actually build more muscle that way. Truthfully, you really will.
Oh, well, I can't say that I feel the inflammation necessarily. Maybe I'm just like numb to it, but.
Well, it's not like you're just eating like all kinds of, like, I'm sure you're not eating just like tons of white rice or white bread and stuff like that. If you are, you probably eat whole grain type stuff.
The high glycemic foods like white rice is actually better for you. Oatmeal is extremely high glycemic, which people think it's healthy. It's like a candy bar, but it's relatively low in inflammatory markers. And so there are foods, sweet potatoes specifically, that you could eat, and you can, because it goes back, you're going to need energy to train. And so your glycogen levels are only filled. Your glycogen is basically a process of where your carbohydrates get converted into glycogen. It stores in your liver and stores into your muscle. It uses it as energy. So if you are doing like high intensity training, which is what I do, it is very difficult to push through that without carbohydrates. You can do it, which I do every day, but I do feel stronger when I eat carbohydrates, and you would as well. So again, it depends on your goal. If your goal is to get as giant as possible, you're going to need to have carbohydrates in there. If you're trying to get as lean as possible, carbohydrates are the enemy. And it has nothing to do with the inflammatory side of it all. It has to do with your insulin regulation. So I was going back to the insulin of the door keeper. So if you don't eat enough carbohydrates and you eat a little bit and the cells are not fully energized and you're working out or doing whatever, your body's going to release hunger hormones that make you very hungry. And so what you'll end up doing is converting your body into being glucose dependent instead of fat dependent. When your body's glucose dependent and it uses whatever energy that you just ate, so you eat a Starbucks drink that's got sugar, your body's going to use what it can. The second it's done, it doesn't want to tap into its fat stores. It wants more carbohydrates. So then you get hungry. If you wake up hungry, and you're like, I'm starving, you're glucose dependent right there. If you can wake up, you don't care about eating, you're like, oh, I got to eat, it's a chore or whatever, and you can go until lunch, you're probably more metabolically flexible.
The best way to experience that, which is what I did last night, is eat a big ice cream cone right before bed.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Oh, my God.
I woke up starving this morning, but I know the feeling, and I'm familiar with it. I'm like, I don't have to. I'm just going to, fast here for the first part of the day. But
it's interesting.
I mean, we could do an entire podcast on this stuff.
Well, just because that's really the carb side, like I eat a ton of venison, I eat a lot of eggs, but I also eat a lot of carbs. But that's because I'm training for a 100-miler. Like I can tell on like my long runs, like when my glycogen levels get tapped, right? Like you feel it. You feel that drag essentially on it. But it's weird because it's almost like a short-term fueling, right? Because like I don't eat sugary stuff. I don't do any of that stuff from like a daily diet standpoint. I do it pre and during, long runs essentially.
Yeah, well, something that you could do is just become more metabolically flexible.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to maximize your output for racing or doing a 100-mile race, I would do a keto diet for like super low carb, high protein, high fat for like 2 weeks, just to prime your body, and then do what's called carb cycling.
Yep.
So then your body can go back and forth between carbs and fats at any given time.
It can burn them both.
Tons of carbohydrates right now, and then I could fast for 2 days, and I'm totally fine.
Totally fine.
And so then what you do is you get metabolically flexible, then you carb load before your race day, and then when you run out of carbohydrates, your body is equipped with the ability to process your fat,
swings right to the fats. Yep.
And you could just go forever.
Yep.
I mean, that would be the most optimum version, but it's kind of hard, because you got to prime your body, you got to get it to where it's processing fat for energy, and it's not easy. It takes discipline and work.
Yeah.
But the other side of it, you can just keep little packs of energy, sugar, stuff with you when you run, and just
that's
down
all it is.
once every 30 minutes.
Yep, shoot it X amount per hour, basically.
Yeah. So there's a whole science that you can do with the whole racing side of it. But
well, so I mean,
dude,
to the point of like the protein, and basically needing 20%. And I assume that's on a human side. If we flip that back on the deer side, so let's talk about like that winter feeding or anything like that, where we're getting protein into them post rut standpoint, whether it's supplementally or they're hitting a standing bean field or whatever. Are they needing to consume more to process that protein that they're taking in at that time?
It's a good question. Our digestive systems are very different.
Right.
Obviously, like these animals can eat grass, and they can process that. If we eat grass, we will die and be malnourished.
Exactly.
So their ability to be able to pull nutrients from their food sources are vastly different from us.
Right.
So to answer your question, I don't know if the thermic effect for the food for the deer, like with protein, if it's the same. I wouldn't be able to have that answer. Maybe
I assume they're more efficient being a ruminant in the way that they're going to actually like process it, chew their cud, reprocess it. Like there's probably a more efficient standpoint, but I would assume that there's still some need. But the alternative to that, and I guess I asked that question, Josh, because when we talk about winter feeding especially, and basically a lot of people feeding straight corn, like some of these deer literally starve themselves to death while having a full stomach of corn,
and it absolutely happens.
And it's because of the nutrients that are in the corn. Like there isn't enough protein, especially for like the daily metabolic functions that they need in the wintertime.
Right. Yeah. And that green will actually help warm up their stomach from the chemical reaction. So by eating that green source, it'll actually create a warming environment from the chemical reaction in their stomach, just from the digestion process itself, with the bacteria needed to be able to digest that and break that down. So you could freeze a deer to death by also feeding them too much salt in the winter. So, so you got to be able to regulate, and deer are self-regulating. It's not like you put out a salt block; they're just going to lick it until they freeze to death.
Right.
So they're self-regulating. All animals are. I mean, you get a dog that gets an upset stomach. What does it do? It goes out and eats grass.
Yeah.
It instinctually they kind of understand. But if there is no availability to them, then they'll eat to survive, and that's what'll kill them. And you'll know if your deer herd's not healthy in the winter is whenever there's diarrhea everywhere. So if you see a lot of diarrhea, that is a malnourished deer that has no diversity in their food sources. And so you've got to diversify that. And then open water. Oh my God, we should bring this back to strategies to kill for late season. And we should do a late season podcast specifically, because there's lots and lots of strategies for late season. But having open water late season, I do this all the time, dude. It is the biggest trick in the whole world for whitetails. Is I'll go in and I'll break a huge section of ice out of my watering hole, and the deer can smell it, dude. They come freaking running in. It is incredible. And I've been working for a long time on making a watering hole that stays open. And I have an entire system. I invented an entire system that actually works. It doesn't require much power, but it's just too big and lumbersome. It works off the laws of thermodynamics and basically a coiling system to where you heat one part of it and it's activated off of a solar panel. So it's very, very low power, but it's all manual. But then you have to bury this thing the size of like a 55-gallon drum that's next to your watering hole, and it's all automatic without needing power, which is really cool. You just have to be able to light a fuse and then run propane, and you can make that thing a hot tub if you wanted to. It's just not practical to sell, so I never really did it. I've tested it, it works. So I'm really relying on Pat with deer ponds to work on creating something insulated. I mean, that's really what I'm hoping for, because that will be a huge tactic late season to kill those big ones.
And I mean, are you focusing on that tactic now? I mean, is open water, a critical mindset that you're looking at here in early October?
Yeah, I mean, so yes and no. So early October, the deer have such a availability to water-rich foods. So I plant all my food plots in super high tonnage green leafy vegetable types, brassicas, turnips, all of that, because the water density in them are very high.
Right.
So they are going to eat a lot in these hot days. They're going to want to drink, and then the food that they're going to choose is not going to be a dry food.
Right.
They're going to want something rich in moisture. And so my early season strategy is always green plots. Clover can work. I prefer a brassica type of blend, something like that, because on a really hot day, the deer are just going to go through their regulatory processes and use more water than normal.
Yep.
And so what I usually do is I'll put a watering hole in my brassica plot. So then they will do that. And this water is so critical getting closer and closer to the rut, because the deer care less and less about food, but they still have to drink. I think they have to drink like 2 quarts of water a day. I could be off a little bit on that, but it's a lot
of sense.
Water. And they do not like drinking out of running water. I mean, guys, I cannot emphasize enough to you, if you got, there's a creek down there. That creek is a massive risk for them. Think about where creeks are. If you got a flat surface, no water's there. Where are rivers? They're in the bottoms of valleys, right? That's where the water's held. So they have to go into a compromised position where there's moving water. So now they can't smell because their mouth is down there. They can't hear because the water's moving, and everything above them is in a predatory position for attack because they're in the bottom. So this is a very compromised position. They will drink from it if they have to, but they do not like it. And so if I've done this many times, they are lazy creatures. They would much rather prefer, if they're eating in a food plot, come over to your little watering hole, take a drink, than walk 400 yards down into a bottom and drink. Or even, I have a one food plot where not even 60 yards from me, there's a 3-acre swamp where they could drink out of. And they still drink out of my watering hole better just because it's convenient and it's already where they are. But during the rut, guys, this is so critical. If you can find a watering hole, like if you didn't put in watering holes, there's still tactics we could talk about on finding these watering sources to kill them on. But dude, they'll be running all over the place, and the doe is hot too. Where's she going to go? She's going to want to drink. So they'll all go to the watering hole and drink, and you can whack them. And so if you don't have watering holes and you're trying to figure out where this is on your property, this is super easy. Just walk the river, whatever you got in there, and you'll find spots where the water pools. That spot, put a camera and hook it up to a freaking marine grade giant battery that you never have to go in there ever again. Do not run AA advanced lithiums. Put a big battery in there to where you get inventory, because that will be a primo spot for those people, for those deer, those still water areas, because they'll come in, because now they're in a compromised position, but there's no moving water. So the noise, they can hear the danger. And so they'll come in and drink. And dude, it is so fun to be able to have that inventory deep into the timber or whatever. And I try to do my recon during a rainstorm. I know that sounds very dangerous, but I usually do it during really high wind or during a rainstorm or both. Because if the deer do get bumped, they don't go very far. And then by the time everything's over, the leaves are blowing around, your scent's getting doubled over, the rain's coming through. And if there's enough rain, it could wash away the scent, especially if you do it right before a rain when it's windy and then it rains, it helps. If you're doing it during the rain, just always wear rubber boots. Do your best not to touch things.
Yeah.
Again, the moisture is going to allow your scent to stay there longer. But again, with the wind and enough rain, you can actually kill that scent by having it wash away. And then the drying factor of it as well. So you got to realize then it dries, and then if it's cold, it'll frost and then fall. All of that is a quote unquote potential. I know the dog people are going to freak out when I say this, but that is a great way for that scent to be leaving, is by that whole entire process. And so if it rains enough, it will wash away your scent.
Why do you think dog people freak out? Because they say dogs can smell better after the rain.
Yeah. I grew up coon hunting. That's how I made money in high school. So I trained dogs. I know a lot about this.
I've always wondered about that too, Josh. You guys would always say, "Well, the rain's gonna wash away your rain." I always thought that was stupid. I was like, "That's not how it works."
With enough rain, it can. So the best nights of coon hunting are drizzly rains.
Yeah,
the dog wouldn't lose its scent. It's bam. But then if it rains long enough, then it will wash away your scent.
Right.
And so it ages the scent. If it's raining on it. And so it varies. If it's a misty rain, and that is a great way for your scent to be left everywhere.
Yeah.
But if it's a downpour and it's windy, I mean, there's a lot of factors in there that are going to be just fine for you to be able to go in and do that. Plus, the deer are less likely to see you. They're less likely to be up moving around. You're less likely to run into anything. If a deer does blow and run away, other deer won't hear that deer blow because it's windy and everything's compromised. There's a lot of movement, so you can get away with a lot more movement when you're doing those things. There's so many other factors other than scent that make that the most optimized time for you to go and do your thing.
Yeah.
Those are the things where I look at, like, we dove into the glandular sense there. And, to me, the one that's always been the most fascinating is that interdigital, from a scrape aspect.
I thought you were going to say anal.
No, not so much. But thinking about, like, we've all watched, whether it's a doe or a buck stomp, and that stomp is releasing, scent, hormone, everything from a notification standpoint to the other deer around, right? And so, it's a big factor, because anytime you've seen that, and then if you're lucky enough to see another deer come back in the area, they recognize that almost instantaneously, that at one point something was like, hey, there's something not right here.
Yeah, you were in the bathroom when we kind of went through all of this, and this is actually really cool. So I was telling him there was a study they did on people where they smelled the sweat of people that were skydiving, and they had the same exact response as what they were experiencing, like the person. They didn't even realize it, but they had fear, anxiety, all these same things from the sweat. And then they smelled sweat from different environments, and they had different chemical reactions internally. And so we even as humans with our crappy sense of smell have the ability to detect different responses based on sweat. And so you think about a deer that has 1 million times the receptors that we do. I mean, they literally can communicate at so many deep levels with scent that we just can't even comprehend. It'd be like we walk into a room, we smell soup being cooked. They walk into a room, they smell the carrots, the peas, the broth. They smell literally every individual aspect of the soup. And so that's where, with exactly what you're saying, when they stomp, that digital gland can produce multiple different odors.
Exactly.
And it depends if they're having that chemical response of fear, anxiety, and danger, they stomp that into the ground. That deer is now picking that up. And that's why, like you said, when another deer comes in, they hit it. It's just, holy crap. There's just a whole other level of danger, and they're alert. I'm like, what's going on? What am I supposed to be afraid of? And so that stomping doe, man, that's a major issue, which is another thing that people do, by the way. They shoot does when they're buck hunting, and they leave all that scent behind when the fear, the clear the field. Like, that is also why I do not shoot does where I hunt bucks.
Oh, interesting. At all?
Never. I know it's terrible. If I'm going to shoot does, I'll do them early in the season, and I do them in ag fields, whatever, like those type of things, if I can. Honestly, I just don't don't manage my does. And a lot of guys will beat me up for this, but I just don't, because honestly, in Iowa specifically, as soon as the population gets out of control, EHD comes and wipes out everything anyways.
Yeah.
So every farm that I've ever shot a bunch of does on, I've had issues with those farms in the future, because most people don't realize this. And Jeremy, maybe you can chime in on this, is the 200-inch gene lives primarily in the doe. And so you're shooting these does, you don't know which 200-inch gene is going to be wiped out.
Right.
You know, what I would do if I have a deer density problem is you shoot them early and shoot the moms with fawns. It's messed up, but if you do that, those deer are way more likely to stay in there, because they're not going to leave due to the inherent nature of
kicking them out,
inbreeding.
So the inbreeding, button bucks in particular, right? I mean, if you can find one. Yeah,
exactly. And I just feel terrible about doing that. So I just don't do it, you know, but if I was to do it, I'd do that. Or I shoot the fence jumpers. So if the deer are constantly, the does are going back and forth between properties, you know, I'll sit close to the property line and shoot all those does. I do not shoot my home does. Those home does you got to protect.
It's such a hard thing to look at, because every situation's so different. I mean, a lot of it, and I think we've talked about this with some of your properties in the past, Josh, is like when you're in some of these areas where you've kind of got brown and down neighbors, inherently they take care of some of the doe issues, right? Because like the social pressure of things, of even though that deer are social creatures, especially as you talk about doe groups and things like that, they're still covering ground, they're still moving. And so when you have external hunting pressure to your property, deer are getting killed. In fact, in a lot of cases, they're doing enough killing for you that you don't have to do it, right? You have enough food to support everything on there. I've definitely, and people have criticized it, I definitely take the stand that if I'm going to shoot a doe on a home property, which frankly is more rare just because of EHD and the way that my deer population is on my properties, I am looking at does that have 1 and or 2 buck fawns and trying to shoot that doe and keep those buck fawns around.
Yeah, I mean that's the right strategy, right? I mean, and
seems like it, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like if I start getting higher numbers in deer, I just plant more food plots. I do whatever I can. I have the farmer leave a little extra grain, whatever I got to do to be able to do that is what I end up trying to help manage it. But then honestly, it never fails. EHD comes and it wipes out so many of the does, and it just self-corrects. And nature has a way of doing that. And so I kind of rely on good old Mother Nature to help me out with that. Yeah. And my brownest down neighbors.
Exactly.
So, like you said.
Have you guys had much EHD this year that you can tell?
Honestly, I want to knock on wood. A lot of my farms, even when we do get hit with EHD, it just kills mostly my does and off bucks. I rarely have my target bucks get killed because of my nutrition program. All my deer are so nutritionally strong and so their immune systems are so powerful. They get messed up. Like they'll be like laying in the middle of the food plot, but it is very rare that they die.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Hey, I shot one of your deer, and I can attest he was nutritionally.
He was not deprived.
He was stout. Yeah, he was not hurting for nutrition.
No, that thing was a beast. I love that hunt, dude. That was so cool.
That's an interesting thing, though, man. I mean, because and at this point, in fact, some people have corrected us just as we've talked about EHD. Like I think I always say, like, well, 2012 was really when we had that hard hit. And there's several people that are like, well, I remember it in 97 or 98 or whatever it is. So like it's been around enough that there definitely is some immunity building in the herds as well. It's just like, and it sucks because you don't want it frequently, but it's like you have to expect that there has to be some frequent recurrence of it for it to build in the herd from an immunity. Meaning like if you get it 1 year and then it's 10 years before it happens again, that's not frequent enough for that herd to be like, I'm building immunity to this thing because it's a threat, it's killing us, whatever. So, but it seems like now it's every 2 or 3 years. And I would even say that almost every year in any given place now in the whitetail range, you're having EHD happen, right? Maybe it's just one deer, or maybe they survive and they don't even die from it, but like it doesn't just disappear. Like it's still there every year.
Yeah, I agree, and it's sad. I mean, you would think they'd build immunity. Is there any states that had EHD long enough to where there's no EHD now to where the immune system
like I said, it's still happening, but like if you go into the South, like if you go to Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, most of those deer that get EHD will get a chronic form and they survive. Like there's still some die-offs down there, but like nothing like what we see in the Midwest or in the Northeast when they get it. So like when I worked in Mississippi, we had it for 3 or 4 years, you know, while I was down there. And one year it was really bad and we did lose some deer, but all in all, you just watched them get really sick and lethargic. And then a lot of them turned out of it, you know, and got out of it. And so that's because it's been happening down there for 30 years.
Well, I got a question for you guys. I'm hoping you can answer this for me, because on the years where we've had EHD and it's been bad, a lot of the deer we kill, even like Sarah's Big Mac, a lot of these deer we kill, the lungs are fused to the rib cage. I mean, like literally, like normally you come up, you go inside, you cut the windpipe, everything comes out. We'd cut the windpipe and pull. And like, what the heck? The lungs are literally fused. And so we have to cut the lungs from inside the rib cage. We had like 2 years ago, it was like, I think 80% of the deer that we shot had fused lungs.
Wow.
And so I obviously that compromises their ability for their respiratory systems to work and function. So you imagine if a coyote decides to chase them, they can't run very far. They probably get killed a lot. But I don't know if it had anything to do with the HD. Or
probably. It is, you know, the blood vessels are hemorrhaging in these deer when they have that, right? So like if you're thinking about all those vessels and capillaries and stuff, like there's a lot of hemorrhaging going on there. Now, whether that then like a healing process ends up sticking to the cavity, right? And fusing, I don't know, maybe. But
it's weird, right? Like it was super weird.
They call that, it's like HPF, it's hepatopulmonary fusion.
Pulmonary.
It's like confused by my search query. It's like sometimes that's confused with, episodic hemorrhagic disease. But it is a thing. There's a condition where the lungs fuse to the, I don't know what causes it. It occurs. It occurs when the diaphragm fails to develop properly during fetal growth, allowing the liver to enter the chest cavity and fuse with the developing lung.
But these were definitely an older deer that didn't have it, because the behavior of them changed that year. Like so like these deer, they would stay in their beds longer. That year I had a lot of deer just bedding in the middle of food plots. Like you'd see like 5 or 6 deer just laying in the middle of a food plot, which is super weird.
Yeah.
Like you would never see that. Then they'd get up and they'd eat and they'd lay back down. They get up and eat. So it has to be something that wasn't developed in
it had to be. I would assume it's because of that rupturing of those blood vessels and things like that, you know, from the hemorrhagic disease, and you know how that fuses to the walls and stuff. I have no idea. Like,
it was super weird.
Yeah,
but
that's a big one.
I'm glad we covered that, because so many people spend so much time shooting does to prevent all this stuff. And again, I know I'm going to get eaten alive for this, but I just don't do it. I hope people in the comments will leave a comment that they protect the home does too.
Well, it probably still is, like, if we change our entire tone to just like pure deer management. And this is like, I own a property, I lease a property, I try to manage the deer herd. And that, you know, sure, we all want to grow 200s, but realistically, it's like I'm just trying to manage for a healthy deer herd in a better age structure. The number one argument, and that nobody can give you a great answer on, is like, how and when should I shoot does? You know, it's just you don't know. Like I think Winky or
how many and what's the ratio?
Yeah,
everybody's got a different idea on it.
Winky's funny with it, because like I even look at his property now and I'm like, man, you've got a lower deer density than you ever have, but like all he's doing right now is popping does, and it's just, but that's just always what Bill's done. Like he's never done anything. Right. He always shoots a bunch of does, and he shoots them early.
He's really trying to, from a rut standpoint, get to a ratio. That's what's important to him. I don't think it's about a holding capacity as much. He just wants to flip
from
the ratio
to
where he has way more bucks than does.
Makes sense.
And obviously he like knows what he's doing, and you'll hear a lot of other people that are way more qualified than me say the same thing. I haven't had that experience with myself.
Well, like on your side, dude, we see Lakoski does the same thing. He's like, I don't shoot any does. He's like, he
doesn't shoot does either.
He's like, it's an unmanageable task. There's too many.
I think the biggest thing, I mean, the only time I shoot does, either one, I just want extra meat and I'll shoot a doe, or the kids will shoot a doe. Mine is just to make sure that when we enter that January period, Of course you can supplementally feed, but I'm just trying to make sure that I have a realistic herd for the habitat that's available to them.
Here's one for you, Joe. How do you riddle me this basically? So the reason I shoot a bunch of does, or we have shot does in the past, is because I can't freaking get to any of my stands without blowing deer out. There's
that's a good point.
There's too many deer all over the place. I'm like, I need less deer here.
Yeah, so that's where, you just got to manage your entrance and exits as best you can. So something that I do is if I can't get in or get out of the spot, then it's not a spot that I'll ever hunt. Unless I do have, now again, here's the exceptions. I do have spots where I will go and hunt, but I either kill him the first time in there or he just is gone. So there's ways of doing this, right? So like in Ohio where you're hunting a corn pile or something, then you could have a vehicle hide in plain sight, drive in, drop you off, vehicle leaves, put out a little corn, whatever, it's part of the process, leave, you can kill your deer that way. In Iowa, we can't obviously feed. And so my issue with this is it absolutely has to be bulletproof access. So some of my food plots, I will plant switchgrass behind me, and then I take my mower and I mow a trail to the back of my blind. And then on the front of the blind, I will put giant straw bales or corn stubble bales that are lighter. And so I create this like wall. So then I go through the switchgrass and I get up into the blind. I can get out of the blind. Deer are still in the food plot. They never know I was there, and it's all mowed. Every single one of my entrance and exits, even in the timber, I will take a weed eater, a leaf blower, and there's a bare dirt trail that goes right to my tree because it's not about when you sit there is what most people make this huge mistake. They're like, I could get in and get out. And I don't worry about scent control, whatever.
So you leave.
And I'm like, oh my God, you're an idiot. Anyone that says that, I will tell them to their face, they are an idiot because yes, sitting there, sure. Can you beat their nose? It is possible. I do it. I have a system that I do with ozone and different scent products, whatever. But it's when you leave. You have to leave the lowest footprint possible in order for that spot to maintain integrity. And because if you walk in, you don't wear rubber boots, your pants aren't tucked in, you leave a scent trail in, scent trail up, scent trail back. And then you're sitting up there eating, doing whatever, and sweating, scent molecules are accumulating around the tree branches, all this stuff. That deer walks in there, he has an exact map of where you were, how long you were there. I would argue that a deer can smell in time to where they know like how much is there, how long ago it was, all of those things. And you hunt that stand over and over again, he is not going to ever come by you.
No.
If he ever does come by that stand, it's in the dark because that's his safety and he understands. So you have to have bare dirt. Branches can't be touching you. You got to be able to walk in, climb stands, get in and out without leaving your footprint behind your scent footprint. And that management of that is so critical. So that's why a lot of my sets, like when you see my farms and stuff, I do hunt them over the food plots. My access is good, but I do have places where I get into the timber and hunt. I just choose not to do that as much as possible because it's a good way to have the deer, leave.
Yeah. I mean, that's why for most people going in on that first sit is their best chance of killing the deer.
Yeah.
Period.
100%.
Because once they're in there,
guys kill them.
Yeah, a ton of them. I do a lot, but once you leave and you leave that footprint, that's why we always talk about it. I feel like my chances of success decrease every time I'm back in there, and I'm trying to take as best the care as possible to get in and out of that thing. But I know there's a scent footprint left behind after that first approach.
Well, once you understand that and you fully embrace it, it's totally changed the way that we hunt our farm. It's like we've basically rebuilt everything based off of access. I've pulled out of all these core areas where we used to go in and struggle to hunt these areas and stuff we're almost like exclusively on the perimeter. Like there's maybe one or two stands that are just like go for it sets and whatever we get dropped off or something like that. But it's totally changed how we access the farm once you understand that it's not the while you're in there, it's the while you leave. And even though you don't see it happen, that's how they're picking up on you, and that's why the farm sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll just turn deer nocturnal if you still have the best habitat, or you'll just they'll leave. I mean, they'll just inherently leave. You got to realize, like, you can have the best food, the best bedding, the best everything, but if they don't feel safe, they will not live there. If you had the best buffet that made the best dessert, your favorite food, the best steak ever. It's aged for 1,000,000 years, and it's the best tasting steak you've ever had, but it's in a place where you're likely to get shot every single time you go to the restaurant, you ain't going.
No.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Maybe you may, if the only time you can get in there is like wee hours in the morning or after dark and it's safe and you don't get shot, you may venture in there, but you're still freaking out. You ain't gonna go there.
Yeah.
And people, they just don't think like in layers of of safety. They think, oh, I've got food here, they're gonna come. That's just not the case. They're very intelligent creatures, and there's multiple layers of depth that you have to go to kill these things at like a consistent basis. A lot of guys get lucky and they'll kill a big deer from time to time, but to consistently kill the most mature deer you have on camera is so incredibly rare. Like, I don't know many people that they kill the biggest deer they get on camera every single year. It is very, very rare. And the reason is because they don't take these layers of discipline into the woods with them. And you have to, if you want to consistently kill these giants, because again, you're hunting a deer that has optimized its behavior for survival because of its age class of being 5 and older. And so you have to hunt these things differently. You can get away with going in and setting the place up with 4-year-olds. They're stupid. They're not wise. They haven't had years of evolving to safety and having all these micro experiences that have taught them how to survive and stay alive. Because these 4-year-olds or 3-year-olds, they smell a human, they don't realize that it's danger, right? And they smell a human, they get shot at. Holy crap! I got lucky. I missed. This is awesome. Or they smell something that's not right. They go back and they smell this whole interaction where a doe got shot. They smell blood on the ground. They smell death. They're like, holy crap! That smell equals death. And it's all neurosociative conditioning. Is all it is. And that's why in the summertime, I try to condition my deer to my smell.
Yeah.
On that purpose, I wear tennis shoes. I wear shorts. So my skin is touching them. So when they're in their not survival state, they're more estrogen filled. They're less receptive to danger. That is whenever I'm setting my place up in the summertime. I'm sweating. I wear tank tops. I wear socks and shorts and all of this stuff. So then they're smelling me and they're creating a neuroassociation that's not necessarily dangerous. And so come fall, if they then smell me, they definitely think it's danger, but maybe, and again, I'm speculating, maybe they don't run away forever. They just leave for a day and then come back.
Yeah.
And so that's because in the summertime, I'm creating a neuroassociation with my smell and food because we can feed. And so it's a positive neuroassociation to me. And so it's very, very layered and deep whenever you talk into killing really, really big deer and old deer. And it just gets to that level. And every person has their own strategy, but every deer, and that's the difference between a lot of these deer too, is every deer has its own kryptonite to how it can be killed. Some deer, it is food. Some deer, it's only girls. Some deer, it's their bedding area. Some deer, you just have to understand that they bed in different places based on north winds or south winds. And that's where understanding and having the woodsmanship of okay, on a south wind, I get all these pictures of him in this general area. What is the most optimized bedroom or bedding area in this general area when I get him with a south wind? That's actually how I killed that deer right there. Lightning, a really cool episode. No food plots, nothing. It was just based on a hunch that he was bedding in the cedar thicket with south winds. And so deer have different areas that they bed based on those locations. And that's the other hard part is oh man, he only comes in this food plot with south winds, but the food plot set up for north winds. Well, you'll never get that buck.
You'll never get
right.
You'll get them during the rut because then they're more nomadic.
I think that's super common, man. I mean, it ties into the mindset of giving the deer the advantage, but guys will wait for that. They'll observe it every time, but not pick up on the fact, or just lie to themselves and say, well, he does that on, whatever winds, whatever, but it's right for me to go on the opposite wind. So I'll just wait for that and then I'll try it. And they never see him.
Yeah.
That's so common.
That just doesn't work out that way.
Well, we did that for years, for years and years and years. That's what we're like, well, I need this wind. And it just never worked. It never worked.
Yeah, it just takes a different level of it. And again, I'm not saying I have all the answers. Please do not take this, but I've documented, millions of trail camera pictures and all these different experiences now. And so my personal experience has been, what I'm explaining and sharing with you guys, with how I figured out little tips and tricks along the way to harvest these old deer, especially now that we're hunting 7, 8-year-old deer, which is more common for us now than 5-year-olds. Just because I've just found, they don't turn into those gnarly dinosaur looking big 200s until they get older. Sometimes they do it at 4, and I will shoot him at 4 years old if he's 200. But it's pretty rare. And again, I say that, but I have passed this past year. I passed 2 different deer that were pushing 200 that I thought would be 220 or 230 if I gave them a year. And so I did pass them. So I'm probably getting to the maturity level now that where I could pass a 200 if it's on a big enough track. But I mean, all those deer I passed are gone. I have no idea where they are.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Bushnell.
Man, what an iconic brand. I mean, I vividly remember growing up, it seemed like every serious deer hunter had a Bushnell pair of binoculars or a Bushnell rifle scope. You knew that those guys were serious about what they were about to go with if they were packing the Bushnell stuff.
No doubt, man. I remember bone collector guys and so many others that we've respected over the years. It's always been like your grandpa's rifle scope. And since then, obviously, they've developed so many great products. We're rocking the R series of binoculars this year. I believe it's the R5, 10 by 42s. Those have been awesome. We took those to TAC a couple weeks ago, along with the broadhead rangefinder. It's got a ton of technology packed into it for angles and and for bow hunters ultimately. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, we've talked about this with a lot of the brands we're working for, is we want high quality gear that's affordable, and that's exactly what Bushnell's trying to position here. They want to make really good gear that anyone that's serious about deer hunting can afford. And so most of those R5 series binos that we're talking about are under $300 for unbelievable glass.
No doubt. And so for right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, to get a discount on the Bushnell website. That's bushnell.com.
I think we talked last time about, you've obviously got numerous farms that you're monitoring and that you've got different strategies in hunting for. When you start to think about like some of these bigger target bucks that you're going after, would you say the majority of them are existing when you find a piece of land, or you're growing them from a young buck, age?
To answer that question, I have never bought a farm and killed a 200 on the farm that had a 200 on it previously. Never, not once. I bought farms that had 200s. I had bought a Missouri farm that had history of 200s, never killed a big deer off that farm. we killed nice 170s, but no like 200s.
Yep.
What are the chances that Missouri guy sold it to you and he's like, this guy just doesn't know what he's doing. He can't figure out how to kill these 200 inchers.
Honestly, that might be the exception where the farm's better now, because he did all the work that was necessary when he bought that. That farm needed a lot of grass, and he took away the income from the crop fields and planted it into the grass. So most people don't prioritize deer habitat on their farms. They prioritize profits. Just because we need to make income off the farms to sustain it.
Yeah.
He didn't give a shit about any of that. He's like, this is going to be the best for deer. So he planted lots of grasses, which what it needed. So I would imagine that farm's probably better now. And I just sold it because they put it into the CWD county and we couldn't feed anymore. So I had to let the deer grow an entire additional year in order to get the same level of growth that I would get in a single year by having a feeding program.
Wow.
And so they were just getting killed. I mean, it's in Missouri, the ruts during the rifle season. So I was like, I can't grow the caliber of deer that I need to. So I sold that farm. And so I don't know. I could ask him. I'm sure he's doing great. But to answer your question, I don't think I've ever killed a deer. I don't want to misspeak. And so I'm just trying to make sure that it's correct. But I could easily say almost all, if not every single farm that I've ever killed a 200 on, that deer I grew. Now, the exception is the deer I killed last year, Big Tony. That was a 208. I killed on a permission piece. And so everyone thinks that the 200s I kill, I'm writing big checks for other people doing the work. And it's not true.
Yeah.
I've never paid for a single deer, including Big Tony last year. I went there and I tried to lease this property because I got word that my buddy, we had a mutual friend. He's like, dude, my friend's got this like really big deer on his property, and he's I think it's like a 150, and he's like, oh, sick, that's cool. He's like, what do you think of it? And I'm like, oh, you have a picture? I'm like, yeah, let me see it. I'm like, bro, I'm like, this deer's 200 inches. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this deer's giant. He's like, you think it's that big? I'm like, it's that big. And so he had a picture of this thing, and it wasn't a trail cam, it was a picture from his phone. And so I'm like, is this in the city? He's like, no, dude, it's like out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, okay. And I haven't told this deer story online or anything. So if you guys want, I could share the whole story if you'd like.
Hit it, man.
Dude, it's a fun story, and I haven't posted on YouTube, and I'll explain it all right now so you guys understand.
Is this the deer you were hunting when we were out there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was Big Tony.
Yep.
So I go there, and the guy's like, well, I hunt, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I understand. He's like, but I don't care about the deer. I just want the meat. And I'm like, oh, would you like some elk meat? I'm like, do you want some does? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, dude, you can have the meat off the deer. Like, that's cool. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to shoot him. I'm like, that's fine. He's like, I don't know. He's probably all nasty. So he's going back and forth with it. Right. And so I was like, how about we just meet? And I was like, he's like, yeah, okay, you can come on out. So I drive out there. I meet the guy. I hang out with him for like 4 hours. He's like, what's this deer worth? I'm like, I'll stop you there. If you're trying to sell this deer, I'm not your guy. So I'm not going to pay for it. I was like, if you'll lease me the ground, I'd be interested. He's like, and again, excuse my language. He's like, fuck that. He's like, if I lease you, then I'm your bitch. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, and he's like, no one controls me on my own farm. If I want to go out there and take a piss right in front of your trail camera, I'm going to do it. If I want to ride my dirt bikes around, because he rode motocross.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it. No one controls me. So I'm not leasing it. I'm like, well, that's cool. And so I was like, but I'm like, would you let me hunt this buck? He's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll let you hunt it. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. I said, now what are the rules? He's like, because he owned about 160 acres there. And he owned a big primo section of timber where the deer was coming out of. He's like, you can hunt right here by my house. And I was like in the timber and stuff. He's like, no, my brother-in-law hunts back there. I don't want you going in there. I'm like, so there's this little field, dude. It's like his yard.
That's so funny how they think about that. They're like, well, you can hunt this here. You're like, okay.
That's literally what it is. He's like, you can hunt here and then across the road. I'm like, and I look across the road. It's a big field. It's just a field, but it's got a big river system in it. And it kind of butts up against the nasty little, think of like in Kansas where the big trees are kind of in the river. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm like, okay. He's like, but you can hunt by my house and then right there, but you can't go in the timber because my brother-in-law hunts in there. And I was like, okay. And I'm like dying inside because the timber is like perfect.
Yeah.
And so his brother accesses it from the other side. And I'm like, okay, sweet. And I said, listen, I got permission like on October 23rd. And so I said, listen, the only way that I'm going to be able to kill this deer is if I hunt him every single day until November 15th. Are you going to be okay with me coming in and out of your property until November 15th? And I said, it will be every single day. It'll be either in the morning or in the evening, but it will be every day. Are you okay with that? He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, that's fine. He's like, also, by the way, on November 3rd, down there where that cornfield is, because he was going into that ag field, he's like, I'm hosting a Red Bull dirt bike race. So from now until then, I'm building a racetrack down there in the field. I'm like, oh, great. Awesome. So now I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are you going to work on it every day? He's like, every day, because he rode motocross. And so I'm like, so basically all I have is this 11 acres, right? Which is his freaking field in his backyard. And I'm like, oh my God. And this is the middle of the country. I mean, there's no city anywhere near. The closest city is like 20 miles. So this is not urban at all. And so literally it's like up on this hill. But the reason this deer lived here is because a massive tornado had went through that area a few years ago, and it killed like 7 people. It's like an F5, but it took the top halves of the trees and just ripped them off. And so what that does is then it creates all these sprouts in the stumps. So they're just crazy thick, crazy food available, and it grew this giant deer. And so I'm sitting there and I put the blind like right next, because it had wiped out the house where that was on there, that tornado did. So that spring he had put like this little mobile home trailer there.
Yep.
And so how I hunted, I was originally further back in the property, but my access was crap. So I literally put the blind right next to his house, like there, and I could park and get in and get out. And so I was like, this is the only way I can hunt this deer. So so literally I'm sitting here, and he would go by the house like on one side or the other. They treated it like a deer blind. And because he didn't live there full time at that time. So it was for the year prior, it wasn't even there. He put it there that spring. And so he was living there, but he also went to Mexico after his race. So he went down to Mexico a lot, so then the house would be empty. And so the deer treated it kind of like a deer blind. Yeah, so I'm like, okay.
You boys like Mexico?
You boys like Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hunted that thing every day. And then the neighbors find out that I'm hunting, the guy across the street.
Yeah.
And this dude had, I don't know, thousands and thousands of acres. He's part of one of the richest families in Iowa. I don't want to say his name. So he saw my blind and freaking lost his mind. And so then they starts this feud with the landowner. But this guy, you can hear from how the first conversation went about like leasing ground stuff. Because I just wanted to have the private land where no one would screw up my shit. But he let a lot of people hunt. And so it's like, so I'm sitting here hunting this, and so then this feud happens, but it triggers him, and he gets pissed off at this guy. So then they're like cussing at each other, and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. And because he wanted to kick me off, I'm like, listen, dude, I've invested so much time into this. This is like the 1st of November. I'm like, give me until the 15th. If you could just give me till the 15th, then I'll be done. Because then if I don't kill him, then I'm not going to kill him at all.
Josh, had you approached this bigger landowner, or is there a known like, hey, there's no way that they outfitted or whatever they're doing?
No, he owned all the land, but he let his grandson hunt, and his grandson was trying to kill this deer as well.
Okay.
And so there was absolutely zero hunting allowed on that other guy because his kids and stuff hunted.
Yep.
And so now all I'm stuck is this 11 acres. And so literally I hunt him every single day. He comes in after dark. I'm getting pictures of him, working. How I actually set this up, it's kind of like yours to get him close into bow range. I brought this giant ass bale, this big hay bale. It wasn't hay, it was like grass or something. And then I zip tied a big limb off the hay bale, and then made a scrape right there.
Wow.
And then walled it out. Yeah, so it actually worked awesome because I couldn't put a post in his back in his house or back behind his house because he didn't want me to mess anything up or change stuff. So I was really restricted and no food plots. So so I did the bail. I could do the bail. So I did that, made a scrape. He was hitting it. But basically the way the property laid, there was like, they would go on either side of his like little trailer, and then they would go down into the ag field. And so I'm like sitting there, and he's in the tractor, like making this dirt track and building this race for Red Bull and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is impossible. And then he finishes the racetrack, and it's in the cornfield. So there's still like corn, I'm assuming, around down there, just like any cornfield. The harvest isn't perfect. So he was still at night, because I'd pick cameras down there. Way after dark, I'd get pictures of him down there, even after all the tractors would leave and stuff. So when the race was finally over, I'm like, okay, all I got to do is get him on a doe, and I'll kill him.
Yeah.
So I think it was like November 12th or November 13th. I'm sitting there in the evening, and I freaking look up, and I see a doe coming down through the timber. Now I can't hunt in the timber, so he has to be on this little 11-acre tract. So I look, and I'm like looking behind the doe, and I see this freaking giant side. He had over 100-inch on one side. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Big Tony, I'm like freaking out. And then I realized, I'm like, dang it, they're going down that other trail, because they basically go on either side. And so he's going down the other trail, and I'm like, the only way I'm going to kill this deer is if I get out of this blind. So I literally get out of the blind, spot and stalk, and I get up to around this corner, and I'm like waiting, and the doe comes down in front of me, and I range her, and she's at 49. And then I see him, and they're on the property. I can hunt and everything. And I range him, but I'm hiding behind the freaking mobile home. So it's like the most ghetto thing you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm like hiding behind this, and I reach around and range. I'm like, I am never posting this video ever, because take it out of context, it's like I'm hunting a city deer, and it's not. It's literally in the wide open. I will send both of you guys the exact map of where I was,
hilarious,
so you can see for yourself. And you'll never believe this is how I killed this deer. And so I range him, and he's at 52. So I go behind the mobile home, I crank my sight to 52. I go full draw, and I like creep around, and he sees me. He's like, "What the heck?" And so I literally shoot 52 quartering inch straight through the shoulder, and it just passes clean through with the beast. And he runs 50 yards. I get it all on video. He runs 50 yards, falls over dead, and I'm like freaking cloud nine. But as I'm running to the back in this backyard, he has this like this propane tank that you can see, and he literally dives right on the other side of the propane tank, like back there. But it's in the background of the video. I lose my mind. I'm obviously so excited because I hunted this deer every day for weeks.
That's a lot.
I finally killed him. Yeah, and so it's a crazy story, but it goes back to show you, like, I mean, and it goes back to show you, like, every deer has its own kryptonite of how to kill him, and the only strategy I had to kill that specific deer was that exact move. It was my only play, and I'm very fortunate I got him. But then the brother-in-law like lost his mind because he was trying to kill the deer, and then the landowner across it, he lost his mind, and so everyone's pissed off. So then they accused me of poaching the deer.
Oh no!
And
what?
Oh yeah, it never ends. And so the guy, the brother-in-law, was so pissed he accuses me of poaching the deer. Claims he heard a gunshot, but what he didn't realize, I waited 2 days before I posted the deer, just because we had to take photos the next day, and then you have to you know edit the photos. So then he called the game warden saying he heard a shot that night, and I'm like, I shot the deer 2 days ago, and I said, guys, you can come over and investigate all this. I don't care. I mean, everything was exactly perfect, and he didn't know I had it on video, and so I'm like, I got this whole thing on video. Like, there's nothing nefarious about it, and so, but I didn't want to send him the video,
and he was serious. Like, do you think he really thought that you poached it, or you think he was just
pure jealousy?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, maybe he did hear a gunshot. I have no idea. But for me, it usually just stems to jealousy. But I'm like, I don't feel bad. The dude had like 80 acres of like primo timber ground, perfect access. He just wasn't good enough to kill the deer. Honestly, I mean, I don't know how he couldn't, because he had a watering hole back there. There was a pond, and the freaking idiot would drive his freaking Can-Am back there and park next to his deer stand, and he only had to walk 200 yards. And so I'm not happy with him. I don't care if he hears this podcast or not, quite frankly, just because of the shitstorm that he caused. But game wardens investigated, everything was fine. I showed not the brother-in-law, I showed the landowner the video. I said, hey, here's the video. And he saw it. Game wardens, obviously, everyone sees everything. It's fine. It's all good. And so everything was okay. But I never posted that hunt because you can see the house is like, the little mobile trailer is like right there, and I shoot. And so it's kind of messed up, and it doesn't look wild. But literally, I will show you guys. Let me just do it right now so you can do it on the podcast.
Fine.
So you can confirm that this is not a city deer.
I mean, Josh, do you think that, because I mean, you obviously hunted that deer a lot. Do you think that just having that like super short and clean in and out access to the blind was why that deer just kept feeling comfortable using that area?
Yeah, because my access was perfect. He never crossed my path of where I could get in and get out.
Well, also, your blind was right on the house, right? It was like just directly next to it, right?
Yep. Just literally right next to it.
So the deer was just coming down through it's just an old Iowa house there, and they're just freaking coming down the ditches.
Yeah, so I just sent that to you, so then you can see if you guys get that Onyx pen.
Mm-hmm.
So the house, you can't even see the house here. You just see the concrete slab. If you zoom in on that.
I didn't get it yet, did you?
Yeah, I got it. Yep, I see the slab.
So that house got ripped out by a tornado. But if you look to the north, you see all that timber and all that. That's where his brother-in-law hunted. All that timber all the way to the other road to the northwest. Literally all of that he had permission to hunt, and I only had that little field.
So you literally were just hunting the field right there that's behind the house?
Literally, that's it. That's all I had. And so they would come off, and then you look across the street into that cornfield across the street.
Yeah, I see that big cornfield there.
And guys, I would be totally cool with sharing all this to the viewers that are watching this, but it's out of respect to the landowner. I don't think you'd appreciate it. But you guys can at least confirm, to everybody, this wasn't a city deer. And that's what's just so funny about this whole situation is, like, there was a bunch of people hunting that deer and everything else, but a lot of those guys would have violated the number one rule with which is entrance and exit. So I originally, the better spot was back in the corner, but I couldn't get out without blowing deer out.
Yeah, I see that.
And so that's why I stayed exactly there, because then I could park and then walk straight in and get in and out without the deer being none the wiser.
And your knowledge of kind of putting those pieces together, it's hard for people to visualize what this looks like. But like my instinctive reaction is like, he gave you permission across the road, minus the Red Bull track going in. Like across the road looked pretty good. Like the way that river came down and some of those fingers of corridors of woods and stuff. Like, you know, if you're getting pictures in the middle of the night, like this is probably most people listening to this are like, he's here, right? It's a matter of time. But clearly he was coming from that big piece of timber across the road. Like, again, maybe.
What about in the northeast corner there, Josh, by that other guy's driveway? Did you look at that?
I think that's what he was saying that he couldn't get out of.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, that northeast corner,
right off the other driveway, the low point. So he'd have to come
yeah. So
over here?
No.
Yeah, he was coming straight down. So basically,
that's off property.
Is it?
So across the street, actually, I had him the night before or the morning before I almost killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And so my inner redneck dude it almost came out. I would have went to jail. I mean, oh my God, I have to tell this story because I had permission obviously across the street. I'll send you this screenshot so then you guys can see it. And you can see where I was hunting. Wait till you see this, and then I'll tell this story. Okay, so that tree stand location is where I was sitting. When you see this, and you guys are gonna laugh at this. Let me know when you see it.
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay, so I'm in that tree stand, and it's freaking awesome. The sun is not coming up yet; it's still dark, and I hear something pawing the ground below me to my right, and I look with my binos, and it's him, and he's working a scrape at 30 yards. I'm like, oh my God. So I get over and I get positioned and I look at my watch and it's 4 minutes till legal. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to wait 4 minutes. And I'm like looking and I could see the deer. Obviously, at every second it's getting better and better. And I'm like, I can shoot this thing right now. And I'm looking at the clock. It gets within 90 seconds and he's still in the scrape. And I'm like, please stay. I'm like, please stay. And I'm looking and it gets under a minute. And I literally was about to go full draw. I'm like, no, I have to wait. I said, I have to do it right. And I swear to God, at 30 seconds to legal, he leaves and goes back up into that bedroom, back behind the house and everything. I was literally under 60 seconds of killing him down there because I'm literally like watching the clock and waiting for it. And it got so close then. And then I ended up killing him like 2 days later on a doe up there in that blind in that other spot.
Well, dude, that's an interesting point because we've had this conversation with a bunch of people and you know, obviously with your platform, like, you know, first of all, it's the right thing to do, right? Legally do things correct. But also just because there's a giant spotlight, you know, and even Jared and I just had we've got a podcast coming out tonight where, you know, Jared basically put an arrow in a deer that was dead on its feet. And, you know, ethically, we all would have done the same thing. You don't want to see this deer suffer, so you put it down. But then in retrospect, it's like, well, is that legal because the other guy tagged it, right? So we had to go through a whole warden thing about it.
Oh wow.
And you know, in a normal situation, have we not had this podcast, or Josh Bowmar doesn't have Bowmar Archery in the you know, everything that you're doing from a video standpoint, you know, probably just gets shoved under the rug and nobody, you know, knows any better about it.
I think the moral side of it is a little bit different than that situation. To me, if it is not in the half hour before sunrise, or I think it's half hour before sunrise, half hour after sunset. If it's not in that window, that is that deer's safety zone, and they're off limits. Like 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, it's off limits. It's not a part of the game to me. And I hate to call it a game, but it's. I'm going to war.
They're out of play.
We're in battle. and if I'm going to battle, I want to play by the rules of the war.
Yeah.
And so I do not even consider it. And I'll tell you another story that happened to me last year. I was hunting an absolute freaking giant, and I shot him. He was a 216 monster after I killed the 208. It's a deer I've been hunting for years. Well, I passed him for years. He blew into this freaky monster, and I shot him at 66, quartering away, and he ducked really hard, hit him between the scapulas, and came out his neck. It was a non-lethal hit. And I missed the jugular, missed everything. It was just bad. Hopefully he shows up this year, and I'll be able to share the story. And I get him killed. But then, so he's not mortally wounded. He's wounded. And he survives. It's a flesh wound. Everything's okay. Well, in Iowa, we can't hunt during gun season. And I'm excited to share this. I haven't shared this at all either. And I'm going to share with you guys. I'm hoping in the comments people tell me if I made a mistake. Or
what do you mean you can't hunt during gun season?
With a bow.
We can't bow hunt during gun season.
Oh, interesting. And so it's not a legal weapon during the gun season.
Exactly. So we can't use a bow even with a gun tag. It's illegal, which is total BS. I freaking hate that. It's stupid. So I'm like, I shoot this deer late November.
Yep.
And so gun season's coming in. I need to keep hunting this deer because I know he's going to shed or die. I was thinking he could die. I was worried. And so I get an old Hawkins muzzleloader, and I'm going to shoot him with open sight, something that is as effective as my bow. Yeah. So it's a challenge. So literally, I'm sitting there, and sunset was at 4:46. So you get a half hour after that, which is till 5:16. At 5:16 on the nose, he steps out at 40 yards. A 216-inch freaking giant. And I look at the clock, and it's 5:16. The window's open. I got the hammer cocked, and I'm about to shoot him. And I'm like, wait a second. Do I have until 5:16, or do I have until 5:17? I didn't know. And because I'm like, oh my God, it's a half hour after sunset. If sunset's at 4:46, then I should get until 5:16, right? Or is it till the length of 5:16?
It's the length of 5:16. It's gotta be.
See, I didn't
know.
If I had
is
until
it
5:17. I don't know. I'm hoping maybe a game warden will comment or reach out and say, hey, you did the right thing, or you could have killed him. You're an idiot. I don't know. So literally, I uncock the hammer, it goes back, and I let him go. And then 2 days later, he sheds his horn. And then dogs come on my property. They chase him off. He's gone for 2 days. Then 2 days later, he shows back up with no horn. I found his first horn right away, and it took me 32 miles of searching. I ran the Onyx to know 32 miles. I finally found it it was like late March. I found his other side. He scored 216. Just a freaking giant deer I called Moose. And if I never see him again, it's possible. I haven't seen him.
Yeah, but you can live with that. You can live with the decision. 20,000 people listen to this. Drop that hammer. I'll let you know that.
Yeah, well, I know, dude. I just,
and
it's
you're probably talking to two of them.
It is. Here, I'll show you guys a preview. So check this out.
Okay.
So this is actually the deer, like in 2021. Can you guys see this? Let me see.
I got it.
Let me see, because I can't see. Oh, there we go. So this was the deer in 2021, a mainframe 9-pointer.
Yep.
Maybe like a low 160s deer.
Yep.
So then he turns next year, as he was 4 there. And then he turns into this freak at 5.
Oof.
So same exact deer. So he turns into, let me try to get that right. So he has a wide, heavy deer. This, as it sits, went 179. And then with this added back in, he was like 182. And then he went from a mainframe 9 to this to a 6 by freaking, I don't even know. I'll send you pictures. I've actually already sent you these, Jared, of what he looks like. I don't want to show him on the podcast this year, or what he was last year, just because the neighbors will freak out.
I remember seeing him. I remember when he showed up. I think he showed up around the time we were there. And
I remember seeing
oh my gosh. And then we had a conversation about if you were going to leave Big Tony. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And so then he turned in at 6. He blew into a 216. But most people would have shot that deer. That's the problem that people don't realize. Most people would have shot that as a management deer. Or a trophy. I mean, it's a 160-inch caliber buck, really nice deer, 4-year-old, super easy to kill. Then at a 182-inch freak as a 5, everyone would have shot that deer too.
No doubt.
And you just got to let him go. I mean, that's really a big secret of shooting 200s. You got to pass him. And then he turned into this freak at 6. And then, of course, I screwed up and made the mistake. And so I'm really, really curious what the rule would have been, because, gosh, dude, I mean, hope it's not a big regret in my life.
Josh, you almost have to wonder. And like I said, I hate it because I'm not trying to put any of us on pedestals like that. But like, sometimes, like, especially those borderline things, it's like, and I hate saying it because it's what it's come to. It's like, it's not worth the risk. Like, as giant of a deer that is, and as great of an accomplishment, especially with a cool, like, open sights muzzleloader, like, it's not. I mean, you see it right there. You did everything you did correctly with that bow buck, everything correctly, and look at what spiraled out of that. Not just because it's a big deer, but because you're Josh Bowmar, right? Like those two factors together are like, I mean, it's not the best world to be in necessarily.
No, and like you said, I want to be a good example to other sportsmen out there, and be a good example for the hunting industry, and especially everything that happened from all the Nebraska stuff, like 10 years ago.
But it's still hanging,
I really
dude.
tried to step up.
That's what I'm saying. People will hear this. People will hear this about even the bow buck, and there will be people that say, "Well, wouldn't surprise me if he did," right? Because of that Nebraska stuff just being there.
It'll be a stain on me forever, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because again, we did that long podcast. People can go back and learn all the details, but they did drop all the baiting, poaching charges, every hunting violation against us. And again, we did plead guilty to conspiracy, which the whole point of a conspiracy charge, obviously, you guys know, you can't conspire to do something you did. That literally what we pled guilty to means we didn't do those other things, because you can't plead conspiracy to murder if you murdered someone. Right. Then it's murder. So you can't conspire to do something. So, but the problem, like I said before, they rewrote the article. They replaced the wrong names, and so everyone assumed it was us, and it's not. You get banned from hunting if you get caught poaching or any of those things. So all these people that think I'm a poacher, it does suck, because it's not true. And we wouldn't be able to hunt if it was true. Sure. And so the reality of it is like, I've had that stain on me. I'll probably carry it forever. Enough time has happened past. I mean, that was back in 2015, 2016. Most people don't realize it was 10 years ago. But we've really stepped up and done our best on anti-poaching. We've done so much that we possibly can in Africa. We spend a lot of time, energy, and resources trying to be good examples of sportsmen out there and showing that. And, I'm hoping we can redeem ourselves. And I just never, ever want something like a stupid shooting a deer 30 seconds after legal light or something to stain the message that I'm really trying to get out there. We do want to be a good sportsman's advocates and be a place that people can look up to.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this on a few podcasts here recently, especially after like the whole Charlie Kirk thing. It's like, at the end of the day, I think most of us listening to this, just be a good person, right? I mean, and it's harder in this world than it probably has ever been. Just because of the way that people are and the way that things get spun around. I mean, case in point, that there you go on your Nebraska thing. Like, that thing just got twisted 10 ways to Sunday, essentially. And like, that's, that is how people interpret it anymore. And that's how they take it. Yeah. And, that's the tough part of being in the society that we're in right now.
Yeah, well, I want to make it very clear. We did absolutely fuck up. I mean, we knew shit was not right. We knew things weren't going the way they were supposed to. But if we're not doing it, we didn't think it was a big deal.
Sure.
So I do want to take ownership in that, because it wasn't like we were polishing our halos. I mean, we definitely, but a lot of what we knew was all the moral stuff, like finishing a deer with rifles and things we speculated was true. And because it was like, okay, it was deer got gut shot and it showed up and they found it right away. That's weird, but it's not like I'm like prying into it and doing all those things. And I didn't know to the extent of what was actually going on, but we still kept going back. And so, because again, it was unbelievable deer hunting, and they were close family friends. And so I just looked the other way. And so we did mess up and we did make mistakes. So we do deserve scrutiny and all of that for that experience. We really do. But to the level of being labeled a poacher and all that, that's just that's not fair.
Yeah.
Well, dude, if you do it long enough and to the level that we're all like aspiring to, you will brush past with it. I mean, I told you most of the story there last night on the phone call, and we have, so tonight, as we're recording this, we'll drop a whole conversation about how that all happened. But in that case, I mean, it's like the moral, ethical thing was not necessarily black and white, you know, the legal thing. Right. It came down to a judgment call by a local warden that, I unknowingly, I guess, took into my own hands because I didn't even know there was a law relating to it. You know, and so basically how that went, I told you the whole story. You know, guys can go back and listen to the last podcast. But so I believe the way the law reads there in Ohio is it comes down to like the lethal arrow, and so that's
interesting.
That's a judgment call. You know what I mean? Because I looked at it and said, yeah, he's already the lethal arrow already passed through him. You know, so and the fact that I happened to put an arrow through him before he breathed his last breath or whatever. And because he died on my property, legally would have entitled me to the deer if I wanted to. But morally, ethically, I didn't feel that was the case.
And, man, I don't know how you did what you did, buddy. A deer of that caliber, 180s to 190s and stuff like that. And I mean, knowing it was lethally hit, I mean, that you did the right thing for sure. But man, dude, if it was just gut shot, I don't know if I would have done the same thing.
We talked about that, dude. Like if it came up to the fence with an arrow in its ass, right? Probably changed the entire scenario because
totally
now it's not a lethal hit, right?
Right.
Well, and that's what kind of caused the whole question in the first place is like in my mind, I'm like, there was no question that's a dead deer walking. And he just happened to make it in front of me, you know, and that happened. And so fortunately what we did was we followed up and the game warden's name was Jesse. I can't remember his last name, but I was like nervous because like initially, I was like, dude, we're doing everything we can to follow the law and also do the right thing, you know, and I felt that it was one and the same in this case here. But then we had a few people be like, well, hey, just so you know, in some states, you know, they do have laws pertaining to that. I'm like, really? Okay.
Well,
so
almost every single state, you're not allowed to finish animals off. Almost every single one. I actually think every single state, they don't have mercy laws. And so you got very lucky.
Yeah.
And so in that exact situation, you just have a really good game warden on your side. All it would have taken was a guy that wants a power trip, and you would have been in the exact same situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
Or was in, I should say.
Well,
and you would have been scrutinized. You would have been charged with a poaching violation, improperly tagging a deer. You would have been charged with all of these things, and you would have been labeled as this terrible person, like I was. And and we didn't even shoot anything.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we shot some stuff with spot stock and whatever, but nothing under like scrutiny like that. And so that's the difference. And that's where everyone thinks I hate game wardens, and I don't. I just want them to be good, you know, and do the right thing and stop the people from actually poaching. Because I've made a lot of calls to game wardens, and I'm like, hey, this guy's spotlighting. I give them the name, license plate, and they don't do anything because they didn't catch them. And it just drives me crazy that then they'll hunt down someone like you or myself, and then find some sort of gray area that's like the most ridiculous thing you could ever imagine, and then just press it and try to take you out. And it's like, do the right thing, take out the real criminals. And I think we should all treat game wardens like firemen and policemen. Like we love them, we appreciate them, we want them to take care of our habitat, we want them to take care of the resource. And I just unfortunately believe there's a lot of bad apples out there that have a different agenda than the actual wildlife.
Well, in a way, we bring it on ourselves, just in the fact that like we're such an easy target because it's public information. Like we make part of our income, you know, and it's just like, and it's our duty to be transparent about how all these issues unfolded, exactly how they happened, and that's why we try to do everything correct. And so I was so grateful to that game warden for like. He just listened, you know, and he's like, so, you know, what happened? Tell me how it happened. I'm like, here was exactly my assessment. I have all of this on film. I filmed the entire thing. So I have evidence of the deer in the state that I claim that it was. And here was the call that I made. And he frankly congratulated me on, he's like, I don't know many people that would have given that guy the deer. You know, he's like, technically you could claim that deer and tag it as your own, but I think you did the ethical thing. And he's like, it's not a problem. I know you're going to publicize this. I know it's going to be a public conversation, and I'm going to write up a report to endorse that was the correct and legal thing to do. And I was like, that's amazing.
That sounds like an awesome game board. And that's the way they all should have been. I mean, that's amazing. And I'm super grateful with the game wardens that are in Iowa too, because they're very similar to that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if anybody's watching this and you guys are all like filming your stuff, doing whatever, I call that game warden 150 times a year. I mean, it is a lot. Maybe not 150. It's probably at least, I would say, 40 to 50 times, like legitimately, because I'll ask them all the time. For example, if you're tracking a deer at night, and technically speaking, tracking a deer, the deer is not tagged yet, right? So the hunt is still on. You're not allowed to hunt after sunset. So we legally shouldn't be able to track deer at night, like the way the little law is written, because you're still in pursuit of that animal, even though you're not going to shoot that animal at night. It doesn't matter. So that rule is violated by 100% of everyone that deer hunts, and yet they don't prosecute it, but they could if they wanted to.
They could if they wanted to.
It's same thing with mowing corn in Iowa. I had one game warden that said I couldn't mow corn. He says, that is not a typical farming practice. You're doing it for the harvested deer. If you do that, I will write you a ticket. I'm like, holy shit. Are you kidding me? I'm like, what the fuck? And I say that because that's what I said. And so the other game warden says, I'm like, okay, well, if I planted corn and I need to remove the corn and I'm not going to harvest it, how do I get it off the field? You mow it. That is a normal farming practice. Who cares what its intent is? And so a different game warden said that is totally fine. And so then I ended up going up to the higher ups. Oh, thank you. I ended up going up to the higher ups, and they said in writing that it was okay to mow corn. But that one game warden could have freaking screwed me.
There is a lot of those kind of, call it gray laws that are left up for interpretation, you know, to the officer. I think it's always like,
well, dude, in my case here, I mean, if I'm correct about how it's worded, it basically says the lethal arrow, whichever arrow kills the animal. It's like, that is a judgment call. Like, technically, both arrows kill lethal.
Technically, your arrow killed him, right?
Yep.
If I get cut by a knife and it's infected and sepsis is setting in and I shoot myself in the head, which one killed me?
Okay, but this example is a little bit more like, what if I shot myself in the head and somebody else shoots me in the head? Which one kills you?
Whichever one stopped the heart.
Yeah.
The one that was
Well, and so what I'm saying is, like, it is a judgment call of the warden in this case, and so fortunately he decided in my favor.
It's a time frame, right? You know, so like, I'm just giving you.
You're right though. Straw man here. You're right though. If his arrow was not lethal and a warden made a decision that was the case, and then I shot an arrow that killed him, like immediately
on you,
then I would have to tag that deer for sure. And that's where you would hope, you'd love to say, like, well, okay, like, that's why I sought out the answer. Let's get it corrected. The guy will return the deer. I'll tag it. Let's exchange here. You would hope that would be the result. But guys, in situations like ours, I've heard stories of, they're like, nope, you got a poaching charge. You got to, you know, because you didn't tag it. And then they just take the deer from the other guy and keep it. I've heard stuff like that.
Oh, it happens all the time, and it's not right, and it's not fair. But I mean, there's so many things that they could get us for. Like, I call the game warden because wearing an orange vest, am I allowed to wear my bino harness over my orange vest? Like, that's a real thing, because I need orange covering 75% of my body, but if I wear a bino harness covering part of my chest, technically I only have 72%.
75%? That's so much.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Well, you have to wear a vest and a hat, and it's super weird rules. And so, like, I'm always calling them to get clarity.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the rules are not clear.
Most of the time they're not.
Yeah. So having a clear consensus with the game warden that you're working with or whatever is going to be really important.
It's just a good rapport with them. That's what I was going to say. It's like a good rapport. My elk that I shot, I killed it on the land that I was allowed to. I watched it run and disappear close to the boundary, probably on land that I didn't have permission to go onto. Besides calling my wife and kids after I shot it, the next call was to the game warden I knew, who then called another game warden, who then I called two game wardens. Like, it was just, and maybe he died on the property. He didn't. He did go over on the other side, but out of just like pure caution, like, why not? Why not pick up the phone and call them and just let them know the situation was happening, so that, you know, you're just trying to do everything. And I'm not saying, like, just blow them up over every little thing, but if it's in question, like, that should be your first call, you know, and at the worst thing that happens, they're like, yeah, not a big deal, whatever. Just don't worry about it. But at least you set that out there.
And if you have a rapport, that's definitely the way to go. If you know he's a jerk or an enemy of you, I've seen him twist all of that stuff and then try to be your friend, and then they try to get you. So you gotta be careful with that too, because it just really depends on the relationship. Like I call my game wardens over everything, obviously. But other people, you just never know. I mean, oh man, well, where'd you shoot that? Oh, that's cool. Man, I see all these pictures you took. Did you take them right away? Oh yeah, yeah, I did. That's awesome. Man, when'd you end up putting that tag on it? Oh, after I finished taking pictures. Oh, cool. Okay, here's a ticket for not tagging the deer immediately. And they write a ticket. And then if that happened to me, for example, like I'm banned for hunting for life. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what the rules are, with the issue with all of that. So that's where it's just freaky. I just am super cautious. But if you have a relationship with them, they're good. You can tell they're good people. And they know that you're trying to do the right thing. Most of the time, they're good to you.
Yeah.
And that's really at the end of the day what you hope for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that those kind of horror stories you hear, or the bad apples out of the tens of thousands that are out there, are what, keep people from probably doing what they should do and calling them, right? Because they're like, man, if I call them and now I'm bringing attention to it.
Well, I mean, dude, that was my first call was just to the office, and I got a non-law person, but she answered the question. I explained the situation. She's like, well, if you shot it and you didn't tag it, you're a poacher. You poached it. And I'm like, well, no. I don't think you're hearing me correctly. Like, and and then I ended up, she's like, well, you just needed to talk to a warden here. Yeah. And she said that before even knowing where I hit the deer. You know what I mean? I could have skipped one off of his back, and she's like, yeah, you poached it.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know. No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's nerve wracking. I bet you were pretty stressed out for a while there.
For a day and a half. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, because instinctively you're just like, you're doing what you feel like as a hunter ethically you're responsible for doing, which is there's a suffering animal, it's here, I need to just put it out of its misery. Like ethically, most of us would be like, hopefully that is the feeling. It's not to like, oh man, I killed him, I got him. It's like, this animal is dying, I don't want to see that, I want to put him down.
Well, and see where it became in question was of who was tagging it. And what was interesting was obviously not like I was looking for praise or affirmation, but most of our close group and people that knew about that were like, that's pretty cool that you would,
because it's a big deal.
Let him tag that, and that and that it went that way. And so I went from getting praise and affirmation to being like, well, that could be illegal and you could be a poacher.
Yeah, it's so crazy because it didn't even cross your mind that it could have been wrong.
Nope, never. It never did. Never did. Yeah. But so thank God for good wardens. Reach out to your warden. Yeah, make a relationship. Yeah. It made all the difference in this case here. I mean,
there's a ton of good ones out there. Tons of
there
good
are.
Ones.
And I honestly think it's getting better because with publicly, if a game warden wronged me, I would probably publicize it and share my experience.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to want that.
No.
I mean, any game warden, now they're being scrutinized and all of this, and that's just not fun. And so
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Primos.
Dude, double bowl blinds, the original doe can, and who could forget the iconic Magnum buck roar?
I mean, that in a nutshell is Primos for whitetail deer hunters. I mean, that buck roar is by far the best grunt call that's ever been made. I lost it in a CRP field in Kansas, somehow found it, and for the last 10 years, I've been notching every buck that I've called in with that call, and I can tell you there's a lot of marks on it.
There's been a lot of them over the years, man. I can recall. So my dad actually shot that 160-inch 8-point in Ohio a couple years ago. It was double bolt blind. I just set that up a few days before, and we've had a lot of success out of those over the years. And so right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for a discount off anything on the Primos website. That's primos.com.
Speak the language.
Check this out, dude. So after we finished that, and he's like, I'll write your report, you'll be good. We started just BSing a little bit about, and I told him kind of where we were at, and he's like, oh yeah, you guys are kind of a hotbed out there for, I was like, what do you mean? I was like, he's like, for criminal activity? He's like, well, yeah. He's like, there's been a little bit of poaching and stuff out there. I was like, really? I was like, how has that kind of gone? He's like 9 times out of 10, what guys are doing now is they are they've got thermal crossbows. That's how they're poaching them.
Wow.
He said
thermal crossbows.
Well, thermal sights,
scopes
on a crossbow. And he's like, we used to get calls for spotlighting, so it's illegal to spot in Ohio. You can't do it. So guys would call in when they see that. But now there is none of that. They just pull up. They've got a thermal scope, probably a thermal just visual, binos first, and then they can shoot those things out to freaking like 80, 90, 100 yards. So they're just shooting these things. They're dead silent with thermal scopes, and he's like, there's a couple guys I'm like hot on a trail. We're tracking them type of a thing. But
you should be able to track thermal purchases and figure out who in that general area would have bought a thermal. I mean, there's got to be regulation around that.
I'm sure they can. I don't think it's not illegal to own a thermal.
I mean, but if somebody orders a thermal scope off of Amazon, like how do you track that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's got to be ways. I mean, but dang, dude, they do have a tough job with some of that stuff.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, dude. There are really bad people out there. I won't even call them hunters. They're just bad criminals.
Oh, they're definitely not hunters.
And they are breaking the law constantly. We've talked about the one down by my Ohio farm, and they know them, right? And it's just like, if you catch them with small petty stuff, what are you going to do? Take away their license? They're already poaching. Like, they don't care about a hunting
license. A lot of them
license.
are known. Like, he's like, a lot of these guys have been through the system already, and
of course they have.
And now they understand, some rules and stuff that they can play on and stuff, and so they're tougher to take down.
Yeah.
I just don't understand what people get from that. I mean, is it just
either.
The fact that they can get away with it?
Well, so the one that I got described to is, and for better or worse, like, they're only killing big bucks. Like, they're not out there poaching 2-year-olds, essentially, right? They're after big bucks. It's an addiction. The ultimate addiction and high of just going out night after night, week after week, and just killing a big buck. Like, that's how the warden described it to me with his encounters with them.
I do think there's a criminal, the getting away with it feeling. That's definitely probably part of the rush,
God, it's just, we just have such a different relationship with deer, like all of us do.
Oh, you're not even close.
There's so much respect for those animals, and it's like because they're so difficult. I mean, I've hunted all over the world. I've hunted, I don't know, 60, 70 different species of animals at this point. And everyone always asks me, like, what is your number one animal? And again, I shot crocodiles, Cape buffalo, hippos. I mean, you name it, leopards, freaking elephants. I mean, I've done everything. And there isn't even a close second to a whitetail. Whitetail is absolutely the best thing anyone could ever hunt. And the reason for that is because of the level of difficulty and the uniqueness of that animal. I mean, Cape buffalo, they all pretty much look the same. Yeah, some are 40 inches, some are 35. But how you kill them is pretty much the exact same strategy. How you kill 90% of most animals is the same exact strategy. But with a whitetail, it's so unique with how you hunt them. And it takes so much of a chess match to be able to kill one specific deer. And again, killing a deer is easy. Killing one specific deer is almost impossible. Is what it feels like, and so that's what makes these animals so special. And it's the fact that anyone would ever disrespect the sanctity of being able to harvest those things the right way. It just drives me crazy.
Well, I'll make like a grotesque analogy, like maybe this is too far here, but like on one end, like what we're trying to do, like assimilate it to like a romantic relationship. It's like beautiful with your wife. It's like a marriage,
Sure.
And it's by the rules of engagement, and we've done it the right way, and we courted them, and we uphold them, and we want to honor them. And on the other hand, you have like a rape. You know what I mean? It's just like totally against extreme, totally against what it's meant for. Totally outside of the rules of engagement, just wrong, illegal, and you know what I mean? It's totally degrading to the.
But I just don't get what people get from it. I mean, like, you shoot that thing when it's in its safe zone. Like,
well, dude, in that same
sense, the rules of war.
If you think about it in that engagement, I mean, it's that there is a whatever it is, like a lot of satisfaction, or there is a driver in us that wants that deer dead, or whatever it is, and that's.
Well, I definitely feel that, like I get crazy whenever I'm chasing a deer. Like, it consumes my entire mind, but it's always within the parameters of what you're allowed to do.
Well, and that's super healthy. Yeah. I mean, that's how it should be.
That's what makes them cool, is like, they're not easy to kill, and they are hard to see in real person. And they have these safe zones under the cover of darkness that is like off limits and stuff. And so when you start to peel back those layers and unveil that stuff and then take it in that time frame. It's like, well, that's not cool.
Yeah, it's like a competition. Like if I'm competing against anything at all, right? Like for me, it's the competition. Let's say we're going against another team to win the national championship. I would want nothing more than to win the national championship, but I'm not going to cheat to win because then you're not winning. You know? So you can be crazy and you can do the most extreme examples of work and effort and discipline to kill the deer, but it needs to be inside the parameters of the rules of engagement.
Check this out, dude. This is wild. So after the crossbow thing, we started talking, or the poaching thing, I should say, with that warden, we started talking about drones. And I said, hey, just curious, what is the law regarding recovery with drones, as far as like, is there a time frame afterwards that you can go and pursue them? Like, how does that work? He said in the state of Ohio right now, there is no law pertaining to a time frame. He said as soon as the drone lands, fair game, whether the animal's hit or not. So guys can literally throw up a thermal drone, go up and find the deer, and then bring it back and land it, and then just go hunt them.
And they're doing that. 100%
they're
doing that.
Like when the deer's alive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In just normal circumstances. So, and he's had guys call him and be like, hey, is this legal? Like, can I do that? And he's like, technically, yeah, it is. He's like,
they need to change that rule.
They are working on it, I believe. So, yeah.
They do that in they were doing that in Kentucky with elk. They were flying them over all of these autumn olive fields. The guides were. There were plenty of guys that are like, I see these thermal drones flying over me while I'm hunting. They're looking for the elk, and they're bringing them back, and then they're taking their client in.
That's so crazy.
So I'll actually put this out here. I'm hoping game wardens or staff, maybe you guys can send this section, because I've really thought about the thermal drone thing a lot with an actual rule system that would implement perfectly to where everybody wins. And so obviously a thermal drone cannot and should not ever be used to help harvest the animal.
Correct.
The second, never. That is completely messed up. Summertime, you're trying to locate, fine, whatever. During deer season, absolutely not. Hard no.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to recovering a deer, I think they absolutely should be legal.
Yeah.
Because I think the reality of it is, if that thing's mortally wounded, you're going to have way less deer harvested at the end of the year. And the reason I say that is, how many guys gut shoot a deer, don't find it, they keep hunting. They're going to keep hunting, they're going to kill another deer. So having a thermal drone to be able to find that wounded deer is critical.
Agreed.
Knowing it's alive or dead, whatever. And so, but how do they regulate this system? This is where the regulation aspect of it is like, oh, I'm looking for my wounded deer, I can't find it. And that's what everybody just says it does. So you got to go to the extremes of examples. So here's my proposal for all Fish and Game to do this. So I think they build in a check-in station, no different than how you check in a deer or not, and you check in a drone to be used, and you check out and you report what you find harvest-wise. And the only people allowed to do it are licensed through the state.
Yep.
And it's a $500 charge to get a thermal drone licensed. And you check in and you check out and you report your harvest. So then you know what is being found, what is not being found, the mortality rate. And this $500 increase in charge, let's say you get 1,000 applicants, that's $500,000 of revenue generated for the Fish and Game department, which will pay way more than necessary for all the nefarious crap that everyone will do, because they find someone with a thermal drone. They say, hey, what's your license number to have this? Oh, I don't have one. Fine. Poacher, whatever. You got to get licensed. And then in that licensing, they just have a course that says all the rules of what you're allowed and not allowed to do. It's no different than a driver's license. This is easy to make, by the way. This is not complicated. And then you have to be licensed through the state in order to do it. And you have a check-in station. And then you check in your harvest. And it's an easy no-brainer, because everyone running thermal drones would pay $500 for a licensing fee. Because most of those people are making money by being hired to do that.
Correct.
And so the state can get the revenue. It's a perfect system. They get reports. They can know if it's working or not. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that.
So what would be the reg as far as you recover the animal still alive? What's the procedure? What's allowed at that point?
You can't pursue it. You cannot pursue that that same day. You do the Alaska rule.
Okay.
You cannot pursue that deer
same day
in its location in the same daylight hours. Yeah, sure, you could maybe hunt your deer stand or do something like that, but you cannot pursue that animal in its location found, is how I would word that.
Well, and
You know,
it's still, it's funny how you could just always, maybe the rule breaker, I mean, you can tease apart like well, yeah, but I can still go up and find it and then go hunt my tree stand where I know he's going, but I don't know how you possibly get around that.
And if it's mortally wounded, then I probably wouldn't have an issue with that, you know, but at the same time, you know, if that is the only straw that could break the whole mold, you can't hunt it within the same 24 hours.
Well, so this is the reason it came up. First of all, I was like, so asking for a friend, you know, but no, I was getting to what happened was the day after the afternoon that, that my neighbor shot this big 4-year-old and stuff. And that afternoon, my uncle and I went and I filmed him shooting a big 6-year-old buck, like low to mid 40s. You know what I mean? It's like, I was 2 for 2 at that point. And
that's so sick.
Super low hit. And it was just like, you know what I mean? Not promising at all. We gave him overnight, tracked him the next day, tracked him for probably like 300 yards, got on decent blood. And I'm fast tracking the story here, but in the footage of him walking away, I'd seen an exit wound. I could see blood. I'm like, that looks promising. You may have caught some heart there. That was our thought going into it. Blood trail the next morning for 300 yards. It had been 13 hours at that point. Ran out of blood, ran out of direction. He kind of like ran out to this end of this point, and I'm like, it's just nothing out here. It's a big ag field. And so we backed out at that point, called in a drone, found him in like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, there he is. And he was about
dead or alive?
Alive. He was about 300, 350 yards from where we lost blood. And it was funny how much me knowing the deer played into us finding him quickly. Because like when we didn't find him where the blood ended up, I was like, he probably went over to this is where he lives. And he just flew right there, and there he was. And zoomed way in on him. You can see like he's the full screen. We're like looking at the wound on his leg. Like I can see his demeanor, how he's acting and stuff. And we decided based on all the evidence, including be able to watch and see him there, that it's a non-lethal hit.
And you didn't blow out your farm. You didn't screw up the habitat. You didn't do anything, and now you can go back, not looking for 7 days for a deer that's still alive.
That's right.
And you actually have a chance of killing that deer now again, because you'll eventually show back up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where it makes the most sense to have those that implemented into this, because technology is advancing. If I had my way, I would say you can't use trail cameras. You can't use anything but fucking longbows and flint broadheads. And I own a broadhead company.
Yep.
Because then that gives the animal the greatest chance of escape.
Yeah.
That would be the best rule ever, right? Everyone uses recurves. That's it. You have to whittle your own arrows, because no one would freaking do it. It's too hard.
Yeah.
And so that would leave the real dedicated people with all of the resources. But at the end of the day, technology is advancing. The same argument was happening with compounds and recurves when the wheels got introduced. This isn't bow hunting. This is ruining the tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my God, every single industry has technological advancements, and every single step of the way it's no longer ethical. And so the trail camera argument, the range finding argument, there's, I mean, so many things. Exploding broadhead argument.
Yeah.
We haven't invented that one yet, but it's coming.
I think they
I'm
have.
Just kidding.
That's out there.
Probably, actually.
It is,
just
for
goes
sure.
inside and detonates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole point is technology's there. Can it be abused? Of course. Can you abuse technology in any capacity? Yes, absolutely you can. However, if you implement enough rules to where it's a net positive by a long shot, not 51%, but like 99% good, then it should be put into law and rule. And I'm sorry, but recovering deer with a thermal to where they have to check in and they have to be licensed through the state, that costs a lot of money, because if the drone costs 15 grand, they can afford a $500 licensing fee every year, by the way. And how many drone people are there? There's probably 1,000 in the state.
Yeah.
That's $500,000 of net profit that they could put back into staffing more game wards, or increasing, patrols, whatever they need in order to increase the resource. And it's decreasing the amount of deer being harvested, because that deer that was lethally hit is not found. The guy is going to go shoot another deer.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he shoots another deer, now there's 2 dead bucks,
right?
2 resources, 2 bucks taken from the resource of the state. And this would mitigate so many of that. And the dog availability is just not there. If there was endless dogs everywhere, I'd be all about that. But some dogs, depending on the level and skill, cannot track deer to the fullest extent. And unless you're Tracker John, then his deer or his dogs are freaking insane, And so,
well, and regardless, I mean, not to because, and I almost don't like saying it because I love dog. We tracked one with a dog earlier this season. And it's super cool to watch them work and stuff, and but they are not the most effective way of recovering it. I mean, by a long shot, those drones. It's just like we found them in 10 minutes. I'm like, this deer that I've seen one time in 6 years, type of thing. It's like, oh, yep, there he is. It is by far and away the most effective way of finding them. It's just it's the potential for abuse that makes them, scary, but.
So what do you guys think, like, the potential for the abuse would be? Like, if you were to straw man my argument, for example.
I think I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with what you're saying. I think I'm for them as far as recovery. Where it gets tricky is the post. Yeah. So, and it lies in the very definition of hunting versus recovery. So, because you're recovering until you find him alive, now you're hunting.
Yep.
Now what do you do with it? So, and frankly, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
And it's subjective too, right? Because if you find him alive, like let's say you found GR8 alive, but he was mortally wounded. He just wasn't dead yet.
Yep.
Right? Versus you found him alive, he was not mortally wounded. Now what do you do?
Well, okay, so let me play this out. I'm just thinking this through in real time. If he's mortally wounded, what is the point in pursuing? I mean, yes, ethically, you want to maybe try to get another arrow in him, but if he's mortally wounded, he will die.
Yeah.
I would say it's purely a surveillance mission at that point, like bring the drone back in 12 hours or 6 hours.
Right.
And
it is more of an ethical thing, right? We're so vested in these animals, like nobody wants to see them suffer, right? That's the thing that the antis and stuff don't understand about a hunter is like we aren't there to shoot an animal and watch it suffer. Like that's not what we want to see.
There should be no.
And we all want to make the best shots we can. We all want to do all of these things the best that we can. But at the end of the day, things happen. They move. Even you can prepare and train and do all these things, and they'll do unpredictable behavior, even at any distance too. Like I get a ton of shit for shooting stuff far away, and I'm like, I've had more deer screw ups inside 40 yards than I have past.
Yeah.
I mean, a deer can duck the heck out of you at even 20 yards. And so stuff happens. And so at the end of the day, I think the moral argument that Jeremy was bringing up was like, okay, now it's a surveillance mission and the deer's still alive and you choose not to pursue him. Well, that right there is still a win because now he's alive. You're not going to go shoot another buck. Any morally decent hunter is going to finish the job with that buck and try to still shoot that deer and be patient. He's not going to just like, oh, well, I'm going to go shoot another one. Now, he might, for sure. He might. But I think most people would be like, okay, I'm going to just wait and see when he shows back up, and they'll stop hunting.
Yeah.
Until that deer shows back up on camera, or they keep hunting that one specific deer. And maybe I'm way wrong. Correct me, guys, if you think I'm incorrect with that. But I feel like most people would still target the deer they shot.
I bet it's 50-50.
I bet it's less than 50-50. I think you're wrong.
You think it's that bad?
Well, it's just opportunistic. Yeah. Like the thing is like
I love your belief in people there.
The three of us, maybe. Like
I believe in everybody too much.
Right? Like if it's our target buck in our mind, like that's our target buck, absolutely. The average guy, that was just a buck, and when the next one comes by, I'll just shoot that.
Yeah, it's not even.
You guys are probably.
It's not even malicious. It's just
no. It's just
another. Hey, that deer is not there anymore.
Well, he'll just say like, he or she will be like, well, it's alive, right? So like, it's fine. I just move on to the next opportunity.
I see. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. My framework for it would just be so different.
It is. It's just a different mindset.
Just disconnected from the right guy,
and not with no remorse either. I mean, people feel bad when they hit deer. But.
Well, I was
what are they supposed to do?
No different than just hitting one. Like, first, I mean, we all know that. Like, blood trailing is very much an art. Like, when you're in that mindset and when you're having to track blood, and it is a tough blood tracking job, that is not easy. There are a lot of people that I don't think are doing it to be, erroneous about it, but like they're just not good at it. So they'll go out, They followed some blood. They lost blood. They can't find the deer. Deer is probably dead, right? And then they're like, ugh. And then tomorrow they go back out and it's like a reset, right? They don't even think about the deer again, you know? And that's no knock to them. That is probably a lot of hunters.
I think it's not 90+% of.
Yeah.
No, and it's not tough. A bad thing. You know what I mean? I can't ask everybody to be hyper-focused on one deer. That's just not the nature of deer hunting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you guys make a solid argument with that, and I think you've changed my perspective on that because I believe
I wish it was, man. I wish that is the thinking. It's no different than like, so in all these EHD areas, you know, they're basically taking like the deer limit from 3 deer to 2 deer, right? Which isn't going to make a big difference because most people don't kill more than 2 deer anyways. But the next thought process is, well, if you got hit hard, just self-restrain from killing deer.
Sure.
It's not happening, man. The corn pile's going out. A deer's coming in.
Hunt this year. The numbers are bad. You're like, screw that.
It's not happening. The deer's going to come out, and I'm going to kill. I'm still going to hunt. I'm still going to kill. Like, and I'm not saying that they're doing that to be, you know, to devastate the herd or anything. It's just, for most people, like the older generation has experienced no deer, right? Like where they saw a deer track and they're like, wow, this is amazing in the 60s and early 70s, right? Our generation just is so used to deer just being everywhere that the concept of a limited resource, whether it's a buck on your property or it's just deer in general, doesn't exist. But it is. No, it is agree. One. That's the hardest part, is like it is a resource that at some point could go away.
Mature deer is the limited resource.
For sure.
Right? Like that's like 5-year-old plus deer. And I think a huge contributor to the limited resource is cell cameras.
Technology.
To be
Absolutely.
honest. I think technology makes an average hunter way better, who would never in a million years be able to harvest like these big mature deer, but it makes average hunter good hunters, but it still doesn't change the fact for exceptional hunters. I think just because the cell cam will just allow you to kill the 3 and 4 year olds a heck of a lot easier because they're pretty consistent with their behavior. And so you find a 160-inch 3-year-old, or a 4-year-old,
he's dead.
They can kill him, especially with corn piles. Oh my God. In states where you can bait, like they're retarded. They're going to come right in and just freaking eat and they shoot them. Yeah. And so the 5, 6, 7-year-old deer of these crazy big giant old deer, that's the dwindling resource that really the states should try to protect. So I would be all about banning cell cameras, which is crazy because I run so many of them a year. But
this has been interesting, Josh. So I put those feeders out this year in Ohio. Like I said, my intent was to try to hold deer in certain areas the best I could. We don't hunt them. They're in areas that are really tough to hunt and stuff. Not that I'm opposed to. Ethically, it's whatever. I'll shoot deer over a corn pile. Sure. It's fine. But it's been interesting to see the deer adjust to them. So basically what happened was, what did we put those out in August sometime? Early August maybe? And what I did was I pre-baited those spots. I put like, I don't know, 200 to 300 pounds of corn and your corn coat, right? And just scattered it all out there. And for a day or two, no deer. They didn't come within 30 yards of the thing. After that, does started trickling. You see fawns kind of, messing around or whatever. And then slowly but surely, they started to trickle back in. After maybe 4 to 5 days to a week, the does would start to eat out of it. And some of the bucks I could see in the background would, they'd be watching and they're like, interesting. After a month or two, everything up through 4 years old was eaten out of the feeder. It's their Texas Wildlife Supply. They're gravity fed. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the gravity fed ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So, but after the 5-year-old and ups, they don't tolerate.
So at this point, I'll see the 5-year-old. I think there's only one 5-year-old that I can think of. He'll come through. It's brief and recent. It's brief and recent. There's 2 6-year-old bucks that I haven't to this day gotten a single picture of on those feeders.
Yeah, you find that pretty consistent with those older deer, man. They just do not tolerate risk the same as those younger deer. And so they just all have negative neuroassociations with feed piles. I've seen this a lot, even feeding in the summertime. I've had really big deer that just don't want to eat it.
I do think there's a difference there, dude. Maybe I'm speculating here, but if I went and dumped a pile of corn, I'd have that 6-year-old on it tonight.
Yeah, what I did in Ohio, I mean, this strategy worked really, really well. Is I would do a bale of hay, just a square bale. I would take a giant square bale, spread it out about 10 yards long, almost 10 yards, so big. Make it kind of like a big rectangle. And then I would do half the bale down. Then I would dump 200 or 300 pounds of corn. I would put some sort of like molasses blended powder version into it. I can send you exactly what I do. Just do ground corn or ground soybeans, put in some salts, whatever you're going to put in there, molasses, put that on top of the corn. And then after that, then you put the other half of the bale down. So now the corn's completely covered and you're spreading it all out. So you've made a sandwich. Then you take corn, another 50, 60 pounds, and you put on top of it. So it's layered. But so what you'll find is you got to think like a deer with in terms of neuroassociation. They see yellow corn pile, that equals arrow in the rib cage. Mommy got shot. Yellow corn pile equals smelly hunter in the tree stand. Danger, danger, danger. You just take that element out of it. They don't know a big green freaking alfalfa spot that's got corn in it, but to them, the visual is different. And so whenever I struggled to get deer to do that with corn piles in Ohio, it was night and day difference, dude. The deer have to browse for the food. They're digging through the hay. And again, goes back, if you are running feed sites, the number one way to freaking screw it up is let the feed run out.
Right.
Because that deer, away from his normal feeding patterns, his normal patterns coming to eat in your corn pile, he doesn't, it's not like it's on his favorite trail. He's coming from somewhere else. So now that field's gone. He just moves off and moves on to the neighbors. And so when you have the, if you guys have the feed and the hay absorbing the mineral and straw, you can get away with a couple of days where he'll still come back and eat in that area, even though the feed is gone. It'll give you that opportunity to refeed and get that program back up and running. So if you're struggling with corn piles and stuff like that, that was a strategy I used in Ohio that worked really, really, really well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
For big, old, mature deer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right on, man. Yeah, I see you looking at it like, hey, we breasted the 3.5 hour mark there.
Yeah,
so
we crested it. We crested it for sure. Well, we've got another one this afternoon.
Look at that.
Just blew through it.
It flies, man. We love talking to you, dude. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Dude, I enjoy it too. We covered a lot of topics today. Holy cow.
I think it was good, man.
It flowed really well. Hopefully the guys enjoyed that and, had learned something. And again, I'm just a guy sharing my experiences. I really don't claim to be an expert in any of this stuff. I've documented a lot of it and I enjoy sharing and helping people and hope for the best for everybody.
Yeah, man. Well, you've helped us a lot today through the conversation, maybe some strategies for the season, and I'm sure everybody listening
That's what's healthy about it, man. It's like just when you got like minds and you're just talking, like you end up just talking your way through things, and in the back of your head, like a lot of this stuff just keeps rolling, and that's what makes you a better hunter.
I guess I should take the opportunity to thank you publicly for the deer that we shot last year. Well, I shot one off your property. Jeremy's supposed to from another one, so everybody knows already. But dude, yeah, thank you for that. We've got him mounted. I sent you the picture there and stuff, and like freaking that was pretty awesome. Yeah,
and the deer was 7.5 years old. I mean, an old buck. I mean, went to a great guy. I was super pumped in a freaking high 80s. That deer's what's crazy is that tine that was broke off was freaking fat. Yeah. I just never got a picture of it. So that deer could have been well into the 90s, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I was super happy to host you. And that was a lot of fun.
You know what's funny is like, and it's fine. It doesn't matter to me at all. But like a lot of people knowing where I shot it, like just write it off. They're like, well, yeah, of course, Bowmar set you up on, 180 or whatever. I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like he didn't help me at all. Like basically if you recall, like on the conversation, you ran a couple cameras for us and stuff. And that definitely gave us an idea that the deer was there. But before you gave me any input on where to hunt, the strategy was because there was no food plots on that farm. Remember, they'd all failed that year with some kind of drought or something.
Yeah. So there wasn't any. There was food. There was a cornfield and some food plots, but the regular food plots failed. It was just the corn. But we didn't have any mowed corn. We didn't have any blinds set up. Now I did have the deer figured out to a sense with trail cameras and mock scrapes. I decked the farm out with some cameras. And so obviously, whenever you and I talked about that farm, you know, with where to sit and what to do, I mean, we knew where to go and all of that stuff, but it was jointed for sure.
Yep.
It wasn't a farm that was turnkey. Go sit in this deer blind. You had to hang your own set and kill that deer. But it wasn't one of those situations either where, you know, it's like, all right, here's a tower blind. Go sit in this tower blind and you shoot it, because that deer was not consistent on my farm at all.
Well, if you remember, Josh, you tried to talk me out of hunting him because you're like, I don't know, dude. Like the chances of seeing him are like slim to none. I'm like, dude, I'm here for a homer, you know.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to be disappointed. You know, everyone comes to Iowa and they're like, I'm here to shoot a 200 or a 180 plus. I'm like, I don't think you realize how rare it is. And so that deer did not live on me. He was there like once every 4 days, but you had rolled in with that massive cold front. It was like the first week in November, and that deer had hit that scrape. It was just after a rain as well. It had rained that night.
It was exactly that situation we talked about earlier. Yep. Pressure was rising.
It was literally perfect. And like you guys were coming in, it's like you were going to scout it out. I'm like, don't scout. Don't just go sit here. This is the spot. And then you freaking went in and it just was perfect. But that's the most people don't give you credit on that side of it too, is like picking the right tree. I told you what tree to get into and you couldn't get into that tree. It was too big. And so you made the judgment call of a different tree to get into, but still be able to shoot the same spot on. And then not screwing up. Not being on your phone, getting caught with your pants down, not doing all those things that most people still screw up, or walk in the wrong way, make too much noise, access is screwed up. I mean, I did the best I could to guide you in the right spot and tell you which tree to sit and do all that. But at the end of the day, you still had to execute a perfect shot and do everything.
Which I didn't do, you know. Thank God for the Beast Broadhead. There's a natural segue there, so.
I love that, because I mean, you guys, that was part of the deal though. It's like you were working with Sever at the time, and I said, you're not shooting any deer on my farm with a Sever. I said, nothing against them, but you're on my farm, you're using a Beast. And you did the due diligence and talked to them and explained it, and they were really good about it. So hats off to Sever for that, you know, with their professionalism of that, which I found to be pretty cool. And so your first year with the Beast, I was super pumped, because the shot, it's hard to keep your shit together with a 180-inch deer in front of you, and that shot wasn't great, but I mean, he died in what, 10 seconds?
Yep.
I love that, man. That was so cool. I mean, I loved photographing that deer because he was just gnarly, dude. Like the big freaking thick boxy head and just old and mass everywhere. His tines had their own mass measurements. They were so heavy.
I know, man.
I mean, not literally in scoring, but they could have. I mean, it was just incredible.
Pretty special.
That was fun.
Pretty special. Pretty cool night.
Very cool, man.
And it wasn't a big farm either. That's what people don't realize too. It's only 150 acres.
Yeah.
So which is, again, in Ohio, that's a monstrous farm. I get it. But in Iowa, to kill 100 and basically just shy of 190-inch deer on 150 acres, he's not living just on you. You know, and so that's cool.
It was cool, man. That was, well, I mean, like I said, we've talked about it before, but everything from that to rolling right into the election night and stuff, it was just
a whirlwind.
It was a whirlwind for our first Iowa trip.
Yeah, you guys did great. I mean, and Jeremy, you were hunting in a totally different place. You killed another really big deer, and that's just not most people's successes. So I think you guys are very talented. You're just living in the wrong state. You know, it's like,
I think so. That's exactly what I think too.
Yeah, you got to get your ice cream shot out to Iowa. Start doing some real estate in Iowa.
Believe me, it sounds more and more appealing, dude.
You get the PA boys out here. I mean, you'll ruin their program. I mean, I would love for you guys to come to Iowa.
Just get lethal, man. Well, cool, dude. Well, we appreciate it all, as always. We appreciate Beast support. I mean, that's what killed my elk here a week ago. So, yeah, really stoked about that, and the performance of that broadhead. You know, did everything it was supposed to do and more. Honestly, I can't believe I put through an elk shoulder. Honestly, so.
Thank you.
It's freaking awesome.
We've had tremendous success this year with Beast. I mean, you guys can, if you just go to the Beast page and go to the tags, you'll see endless customers and shooting moose. And I mean, we've really changed the game with expandables, which I'm so grateful for. Like, people are shooting low poundage and getting pass throughs. I mean, on big animals, it's so cool. And we just put so many years of effort and technology into the blades specifically, and just the design. And I'm so happy to have you guys on, you know, because it took some you guys having your own personal experiences and everything like you did in order to cross over. And I'm super glad to have you guys on the team and support the program.
Yeah, well, dude, we've come a long way here. Just our relationship and everything that's involved.
I was
going to
say, when we had Hauser in here, he did a fantastic job at explaining the engineering and everything. Like if anything, people listen to that and they're like, oh, like this isn't just a fly-by-night, like, hey, here's another expandable broadhead. Like, this thing was thought out and over and over and over again built to be the best.
Yeah, we absolutely have over 700 different variations of that broadhead. And I mean, it is absolutely insane, the level of effort we put into this, and we refuse for it not to be perfect. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm the one hunting in some of these experiences, and like, I'm building this broadhead for myself. Like, if I'm going to shoot a Cape Buffalo, like, if I wound this thing, it could kill me, literally, or kill another person. And so, like, I'm like, I refuse for it not to be great. And we always have the same phrasing as when we run into problems, which is all the time when trying to solve something or make something different or new. It's like, we put a drone on Mars. We can do this. This is not that complicated. Like, we can figure this out, you know, like us as a species had put a drone on freaking Mars. We got this. And so we refuse to settle. And then if the technology isn't there, we invent it. I mean, we had to invent spring technology to be able to put a spring powerful enough behind the blades with that mechanical advantage. We literally had to invent new spring technology that's never been done before, which is really cool. And so, like, then the blade sharpness, we have totally transformed what actual sharp blades are. I mean, we are literally sharper than every other broadhead in the world. After going through MDF, after going through ballistics gel, we're still sharper. And I mean, it is just so cool what we've been able to do. And I'm so incredibly proud of it. I really am.
Yeah, man. Well, you should be. It was awesome. I mean, mine passed through elk shoulder and exit, and it looked perfectly new. Like,
That's amazing.
For sure could clean it off and go and shoot whitetails easily with that thing.
I love that. Oh, that's awesome. That's what we're hearing that a lot across the board, and the sharpness of the blades and the function of how it works. It's the way a broadhead should work. There's no reason to break a rib on a deer if you in compromise penetration, or there's no reason for a giant expandable. I mean, the goal of a big expandable is to give you room for error, but the whole stigma with expandables is the shoulder blade. And so now you got to send a giant 2-inch blade through a shoulder blade. It's never going to happen. But with ours, obviously, it can compress down to 0.66 inches and go through that scapula, which is smaller than any legal fixed blade. So you're actually getting all the benefits of the expandable with the big cut. The in-flight diameter, it's ballistically matched to field point. So you get field point accuracy, big, huge cut for margin of error. And then through bone, you're getting better penetration than a fixed blade.
Yeah.
And so that's just the best of both worlds. And so we're working our best and we're never going to stop until every bow hunter shoots a beast unless they're paid not to. That's our goal. It's like the only reason someone doesn't shoot a beast is because they're paid to say something else is better. That's our goal. That's our mission. And so
I like it, man.
I think we're on our way.
Well, hopefully we'll be slinging a few more before the fall is over here.
Just getting ripping here, man.
Just getting ripping. But yeah, dude, appreciate you as always. Hang on 1 second while I make sure this all uploads. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Beast Broadhead.
Dude, Beast Broadheads. Man, we've been advocating for and shooting expandable, especially big expandable broadheads for years and years now. And it just seems like they keep making them better and better. And ultimately, with the relationship we forged with the Bowmars this past year, we're just super excited to be shooting the Beast broadheads this year.
I mean, this broadhead it's the world's sharpest expandable broadhead out there. It has best penetration, and it's got bone avoiding technology. Ultimately, we want to create the most trauma possible on a deer when we release an arrow. The Beast Broadhead does that for us every time.
So right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for a discount on anything on the Beast website. So definitely go check out beastbroadheads.com.
Josh Bowmar. Love them, hate them.
They fly, man.
Indifferent, however you want to be. The dude is passionate about it, and I think is a wealth of information.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, super knowledgeable, like regarding the different, whatever chemical systems, the deer and stuff. I didn't know a lot of that, how that was working.
Yeah. So no, I mean, yeah, and I thought he described it well as like, you don't have to agree with everything he said. He's purely stating most of this from an experience side of things. But he's killed 7 200s, and to his, own words, he's grown most of those, which is what any of us managing deer herds are trying to aspire to do, is to get deer big into maturity.
Yeah. The
difference there being like, Josh is letting 180-inch 5-year-olds walk by, and most of us aren't and never will, and that's what I made a comment to somebody, I think on, if you're listening to this, it had been 2 weeks ago, it was the Lukowski podcast, and you're like, Lee's just so disconnected from us doing what he's doing and stuff, and I'm like, I get it. Like
that was
that was a comment on.
I see. Yeah.
I was like, I get it, and most of us, including myself, will never be at Lee Lukowski level from a farm standpoint, from an experience side, from what he's killed. But isn't it cool, like, to hear somebody at that level, like just to know what that side lives like and how they think and how. So again, I'm not like, the whole point of our podcast is like, not everything we do is absolutely relatable to everybody listening. That's should be a cool thing to hear.
Well, that's almost not even relatable to us. Like,
it's not.
I just said the other day we made a decision to shoot 4-year-olds, and then we can, in the same or next conversation, be talking about how dumb 4-year-olds are and how they want to run over. And I understand. I'm like, yeah, I would love to be passive 4-year-olds, but there's a reality too of all of our, specific circumstances.
It's also a difference between Iowa and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Kentucky and everywhere else.
Iowa and everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, I want, hopefully as people listen to Josh and Lukowski and all these guys, like, take it with, like, you may not be able to be like, he doesn't hunt just like I hunt, but listen to how they're doing it and what they're doing, because there is nuggets of information in there that I think are extremely valuable at how you do things.
And also a passion for hunting and a love for the animal that is, hard to, unrivaled,
Absolutely. I would say. So I think it's cool, and it's worth stating that just because I saw that on the Lukowski thing. But anyways, we appreciate Josh joining us for episode 276 of the HUNTR Podcast, and it's October.
And we're in it now.
We're in it now. We'll catch you all next time.
Later.
Take me